What's good, y'all? Welcome to Chip and Zay here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. I am Zay Collier, rocking with y'all for the next 2 hours, 2 to 4 every day. Again, here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Like, subscribe. Y'all know what to do from X, Facebook, YouTube, everything. We're on everything. But let me bring in my main man and co-host, the great Chip Brown.
Hey, in the immortal words of Judy Brown, happiness is a choice. Happy y'all are spending some time with us on an Off the Rails Thursday. Chip and Zay holding it down right here in the midday Texas Sports Unfiltered. My phone is blowing up.
My phone's blowing up too, man. Probably for different ways, but reasons. But yeah. A lot going on today, to say the least.
A lot going on, to say the least. Obviously, we've got get our little banner up here. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, a lot going on after last night's loss. Texas loses to Xavier, 86-80. Had a 13-point lead 3 different times in the first half. Had a 10-point lead in the second half. Couldn't hold on. Zay, what did you see?
I just saw a team that wasn't very disciplined towards the end of the game. You know, when it's winning time and you're in the last 4 minutes in the second half, you've built a 13-point lead at times, you know, and you squander that away. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Sure, we all know it's most likely the last game that Rodney Terry coached as the head honcho of Texas men's basketball, and, you know, talked about it a ton on this platform before about my relationship with RT and how he's family. Again, my pops hired Rodney Terry 30-something years ago as an assistant freshman coach at my alma mater, James Bowie High School in Southwest Austin. And ever since then, RT has done a terrific job in his career, from UNC Wilmington, Baylor, you know, being the assistant for Rick Barnes, to staying at Fresno State as a head coach, UTEP, to being an assistant for Chris Beard, to now being the head coach of Texas men's basketball. And I'll never forget that day, Chip, when he got the job as the head coach, and I called my pops and talked to him for about 2 hours, and how excited my dad was for our team and this opportunity. And to know that it's gone down the way it has, it sucks. Definitely does. I mean, I love the University of Texas. I've been blessed that people have given me the opportunity going back to the old station, people like Bucky Godbolt and, you know, Aaron Hogan and Chad Hastings, guys like that just gave me different opportunities to do something that I really enjoy. And now Brad Kellner giving me an opportunity to be here with you on this terrific platform, Texas Sports Unfiltered. Again, I love my job. And a lot of people can't say that. And I'm very honored and blessed to do what I get to do every day. And one of the hardest things for me in the job where you have to be as objective as possible was coming on air and having to criticize this Texas men's basketball team with the relationship that my family has with RT, who is family. Again, my grandfather, my pops, and RT's dad are stepbrothers and grew up together. You know, RT changed my diapers when I was a toddler. It's deep. It's real deep. So to come on this platform and have to just speak the real, I owe that to y'all. I owe that to myself, and again, just all our listeners and viewers that follow us. I got to be honest. I got to keep it 100, but it's tough. It's tough to see a lot of hate that RT has gotten, and this is a result-based business. I've understood that since I was a kid, and if you don't have good results, then they're going to replace you. It just is what it is. And when you're at a place like the University of Texas where the athletic standard is insane, RT knew what he was doing, taking the job, and he just hasn't met that standard. So, again, last night, just too many missed opportunities. You're completely controlling that game. And I think when Caden Shedrick got hit in the cojones, that's when the game changed. That's oddly where the game changed. And I was telling y'all all week, when it comes to Xavier, you got to worry about Zach Fremantle and Ryan Conwell. And they did a pretty decent job guarding those guys. I mean, Fremantle, he still ended up 15 points, Conwell with 11. But I'm sure nobody had it written down that Marcus Foster was going to drop 22 points last night and only miss one shot. 8 for 9 from the field, 4 of 5 from the three-point land. He was money. I don't really understand why you help off of anybody like Fremantle. If he's going to get his, have him get his, and don't allow threes from a really good three-point and shooting Xavier team that shoots 38% from the field. Texas gave them way too many yesterday, and it's unfortunate because you don't have much time to scout in between the selection and then Wednesday night. Like, it's not like the SEC where you're watching teams every other night because you're preparing for, just different teams in your conference. Like, this was a new matchup, and when a team shoots 48% from three, 50% from the field, even though Texas handled their business from the free throw line and being the aggressor, you could still play well and lose during this time of the year. So, sucks. It's brutal how Texas went out, but at the end of the day, RT has a $5.3 million buyout, something along those lines. So
5.4.
5.4, excuse me. So that's like, he's going to be just fine. He's going to be just fine. Well, from the best. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah. I mean, things were tough. And I reported last night that Texas will go separate ways with Rodney Terry. It's a little bit complicated in terms of timing. Chris Del Conte's wife just had surgery. Wish her the best, but Chris Del Conte was not in Dayton because of that. And so, things may play out a little slowly here for a minute. And that's the timing is never good for these situations. So that's just a fact. The portal opens, next week. So Texas needs to, have some clarity as soon as possible because the portal opens next week and Texas is losing 7 of its top 10 players and has 1 recruit signed. Their recruiting class for 2025 is ranked 74th in the nation, which was part of the problem, the recruiting. And obviously Texas had become so portal dependent that they didn't even play the freshmen other than Trey Johnson that they had this year. Didn't play Nick Cody much, didn't play Jamie Vincent much. But you look at the body of work this season, and I know RT said, I've been part of the most successful, times in Texas basketball in his 13 years, 10 as an assistant, and then these 3 years as a head coach. But you look at the direction of the program this year, there were non-competitive losses at home against Alabama and Georgia, on the road at South Carolina. They don't move Tremont Mark to the point until after the regular season. It works. they win 2 games in the SEC tournament against Vanderbilt and A&M, and that's what got them into the first 4. And then they, for the 3rd time this season, can't hold on to a double-digit lead. They also had a 10-point lead or more. They led Ole Miss by double digits, and it led Ole Miss by 13, lost, and led Vanderbilt by 10 and lost. Vanderbilt, both of those games were on the road. So, people are going to say the guy made the tournament every year. Well, if you're the athletic director at Texas and you've said a million times that you hire coaches capable of winning a national championship in their respective sport, you have to look at Rodney Terry through that prism. It's not just good enough to be in the tournament. It's not just good enough to be in the first 4. It's not good enough to get blown out in non-competitive games. Lose by 20 at A&M. You lose by 23 at home to Bama. You lose by 24 at Florida. You were down 20 plus against Arkansas and came back and made it close. Probably should have won the game at Arkansas. So it's tough, but Rodney Terry did a great job in leading the 2023 team after the shocking circumstances of Chris Beard getting let go. Rodney Terry did a great job. He had 5 fifth-year seniors, one of the most experienced teams in the nation. Marcus Carr, Jabari Rice, Christian Bishop, Timmy Allen. That was a talented veteran team, and they played like it. They had a 13-point lead on Miami to go to the Final Four with 10 minutes left. Couldn't hold on. So, these things are never easy. Hunter wants to know who are the top candidates. I mean, there's a lot of arrows pointing toward Sean Miller at Xavier, and that's why we were saying how awkward that game was. I mean, hell, Jimmy Sexton was sitting behind the Xavier bench last night. When was the last time Jimmy Sexton, super agent to the coaches, when was the last time he was at a first 4 game in Dayton? So, but, a lot of talented coaches out there. We'll see how it plays out. But, yeah, you can't take too much time because the portal's open next week. So, it's and you got to hang on to these players. You got to hang on to Kendall Weaver. You got to hang on to, Devin Pryor and Nick Cody and Jamie.
The same Devon Pryor that got 0 minutes last night.
Yeah, I mean, there was no rhyme or reason at times, Zay, to what the thought process was. And look, Texas, they played, they shot the ball well. They were dominating the game for 25 minutes. But defensively, Trey Johnson is not going to win any Defensive Player of the Year awards. He played well, 6 rebounds, 23 points. The missed free throws were a puzzler.
Killer.
In a tight game, you can't miss free throws down the stretch. He missed 4. Texas missed. Texas ended up missing 6 free throws. Trey Johnson misses 4. How does that happen?
Yeah, it was 87, 88% free throw shooter.
89.
Good grief.
Coming in. And
yeah.
So
I think Trey was amazing this year. Like what he did in the toughest conference, arguably of all time, and put up the numbers that he did, incredible. You know, if you've listened to me on these airwaves, I've talked about just sometimes his attitude is trash. Sometimes his body language is also trash. And I think this is the first time he's ever dealt with failure, like just as a player. I'm talking about a kid that won a state championship as a junior at Lake Highlands High School. And then he moves on and goes to Link Academy, where you're playing with nothing but D1 players, guys who are on your level. Then you come here at Texas and you realize, man, some of these guys, they don't have the same mindset as I do, which I love that about Trey Johnson, like his competitiveness. That's what's going to continue to make him a really good player. But also, he had some tough moments this season that he's going to have to fix before he gets to the association, because they're going to make him fix that. Like, they're not going to deal with any of that crap. There's guys that are seasoned vets that are going to be his teammates. And last night, he had that one possession where he takes a ill-advised shot from deep, doesn't hustle back on defense, and ends up getting a horrible foul call that leads to an and one by Dalen Swain. And that crowd, man, we talked about it. We knew that crowd was going to be something serious. That crowd, you could argue they changed the game. Like, just, it was loud as hell. Our guy E. Henry at Horns 24/7 tweeted that he hasn't been to a Texas game where it was that popping. And Xavier fed off that. They really did. And going back to Sean Miller, he pressed some serious buttons in that game, because what we didn't see from Texas a lot this year, when Trey Johnson and Trayvon Mark, something like that, didn't have a good game, most likely Texas was done for. But here we are in the first four, and Xavier's two best players get in foul trouble and don't have the best game. They both go for double figures, Fremantle and Conwell, but the other guys step up. Marcus Foster gives you 22. Dante Maddox Jr. gives you 10. You know, Dalen Swain gives you 11 and also had some really good defensive possessions. Jerome Hunter had some huge threes. Those other guys were locked in. They were locked in, and they ended up beating Texas. And it's just like, everybody on your roster has to contribute if you want to win big games. It just can't be your star players each and every night, because they're human. Your star players are going to have an off night every once in a while. And it seemed like all the games that Trey Johnson struggled at times, Texas wasn't able to overcome that. He had to have a good game just for them to have a chance. And some of the decision-making with RT this year, so questionable. We just talked about, how do you not play Devon Pryor in this game at all? When Xavier, all those other guys, like Marcus Foster and Dalen Swain and Jerome Hunter, I feel like Devon Pryor matches up with those guys pretty well at 6'7", all the athleticism in the world. I feel like that's a solid matchup. I'm going to put Devon Pryor on one of those guys and be like, hey, can we slow these guys down right now? He didn't even do that. You play Julian Larry all year long. And again, Julian Larry, very up and down this year. He gets 2 minutes last night. I said you should have started Kendall Weaver. Jordan Pope, no show. Jordan Pope gave you nothing yesterday. He hit a three. You know, he did his little head pat thing. That's about it. Then Kendall Weaver played 30 minutes, but he didn't press the right buttons at the right time. And Sean Miller did. That's why Texas is at home, and now Sean Miller and Xavier are preparing to play Illinois here in the first round of the tournament. You saw miscues like that the whole year, which was frustrating. Like, there's just no excuse to not play Trayvon Mark at point guard the whole season. There's zero excuse. It should have taken you, I'd give them 6 games to figure it out. And I'm being nice, because if that was me, we're realizing in practice and scrimmages, who deserves the ball in their hands more. Jordan Pope has always been a shooting guard in a point guard's body. So for him to play point 80% of the year, you're doing your team a disservice, man. You really are. And where are your assistants to help? Frank Haith stole money this year. Steve McClain stole money this year. Completely hijacked Texas athletics and stealing money and making over six figures to do what? To do what? And maybe those guys, I'm not going to completely bash those guys. Maybe those guys were giving good feedback and coming up with ideas. And maybe RT just wasn't taking them in. Maybe RT went with the whole, hey, my way or the highway. We don't know. This is all speculation. But they didn't press the right buttons all year long. Arthur Kaluma is a 3. He is a small forward. You could play him at power forward at times, but in the SEC, he's a small forward. You got him playing the 4. He's out of position. That's not a good look. Too many guys on this roster were out of position. Julian Larry should have had less and less minutes all year long. Yeah, he played hard. Yeah, he has the right mentality. He's a mid-major player. Jason Kent was decent last night, but him giving up that box out to Swain to end the game, that was Jason Kidd all year long. Good at times, horrible in other times. He was also playing out of position at times too. Like, it just didn't make sense a lot of the time. And it's frustrating because it's like, RT, man, you know ball more than that. That the whole excuse we have to play we can't play Trayvon Mark at the point because we don't have Kendall Weaver. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't. Like, you figure it out. Devon Pryor, he should have played last night. He should have played more the whole entire season. Nick Cody, Jamie Vinson, those guys should have got enough playing time before conference play. So when conference play comes around, you could throw them in a little bit because those guys are bigs. This is a big physical conference. You got beat up the whole year because you were undersized. Trey Johnson, like you said, Chip, he ain't going to win any Defensive Player of the Year awards. Like, there were times where he needed help defensively.
Yes.
But we saw against Tennessee, you bring in your worst perimeter defender and Jordan Pope guarding their best scorer. That's dumb. That's really dumb. And again, I love RT. I appreciate him. Very proud of him. But got to call a spade here. That's a dumb thing to do. I never do that. That's a bad move. Chaz Lanier, he ended up having 20-something that game. So things like that you saw all year long. You didn't play Kaden Shedrick and Zirek Oyema together enough. Kaden Shedrick was solid this last few games.
Yeah.
He was really solid. He was somebody that improved. But, man, if they would have made those type of adjustments early, we wouldn't be having the conversations that we're having now. We really wouldn't. And it's sad that we are, but that's how it goes sometimes. And we always say A's hire A's, B's hire C's. Frank Haith and Steve McClain stole money this year. I don't know what they did. I really don't. Like, I don't know what they did at all for this squad or anything like that. Because Frank Haith's offense, terrible. The last 4 minutes, that offense was atrocious. What are we doing? What are we looking for? That played right into Xavier's hands. Xavier, meanwhile, they're moving the ball. Fremantle passing it out for 3. Kendall Weaver tries to take a charge on Fremantle. Kendall Weaver, love you, bro. You brought that spark to Texas, which, again, there's been injuries, so That's tough for RT too. If he had Kendall Weaver this whole year, things probably would have been different also, but everybody has injuries. But Kendall Weaver, why the hell am I going to try to take a charge on Zach Fremantle when Marcus Foster's hit 6 freaking threes already? I ain't helping off of him. That's common basketball knowledge there. You got to understand how this game's flowing. You got to understand what's really going on here. And that's the coaches. The coaches got to say, we're not helping on anybody. If Zach Fremantle catches it in the post, we're going to let Caden guard him one-on-one. They're killing us from the outside. They're shooting 48%. I don't know about you, but that's pretty damn good. That's lighting it up. Steph Curry for his career is a 44% three-point shooter. He's the greatest shooter of all time. So if a team is shooting 48, probably going to lose. Probably going to lose. Last night was so fitting. I hate how it went down. I'm very discouraged and just down bad right now. Not trying to have a crash out moment because this is a special day. Again, I'm sitting on the couch right now. I'm not in my normal seat doing the show because we got games going on out the yin yang. My bracket sucks already. You know what I'm saying? But this is still a special day. And it sucks that we have to talk about this.
Yeah. No, it is. The timing is never good for these situations, and it is the way it is. But at Texas, and I applaud Chris Del Conte for holding that standard of hire coaches capable of winning a national championship in every sport. And that's why Texas has won the Directors' Cup 3 of the last 4 years, because across the board, Texas is in the mix for national championships. And that's the standard, point blank. So if someone can make the argument that Rodney Terry has shown enough in 3 years that he can build a roster and coach a roster to win a national championship at some point, then, have at it. I haven't seen it. And so I think like I said, it's going to be a little quiet for a minute. And then I think things will move part of it to, if indeed Sean Miller is the leading candidate, as it appears, Texas is going to, lay low until his coaching run is done in this tournament. But did you hear Sean Miller after the game? He was asked about Illinois, and he's like, I
don't care.
Yeah, he was like, I could not care less. And I was like, he won the game he needed. And that was to beat Rodney Terry in Texas. I mean, we talked about the fact that in 2023, I was told, Del Conte, it was down to Sean Miller and Rodney Terry, and Rodney Terry beating Sean Miller and going to the Elite Eight was the reason why Del Conte hired Rodney Terry over Sean Miller then. And here they were again, facing off. I mean, the committee, that's why we've been saying all week how awkward this was. And then, Sean Miller gets it done, and he needed it. He definitely needed it. There's no doubt about it. So
they got any shot they want last night. They shot 55% from the field. Any shot that they wanted, whether it was Fremantle scoring on the inside, even though I thought Texas did a pretty decent job on Ryan Conwell, they weren't tripping on that. Ryan Conwell was like, hey, we got shooters on the outside. We shoot 38%. Hey, let's see what these guys are about. And I can't make this more of a point, but that crowd, man, it was different in Dayton last night. I thought Texas was completely fazed by it. And as a coach, you got to settle your guys down. Like that's why having a legit offense where everybody's touching the ball and guys are constantly moving and you're not relying on a 19-year-old to get you all your points is huge in those moments, in those away games, because you keep the defense on their toes. When Xavier was able to just settle down and lock in and key in on Trey Johnson, and then Trey just started taking really bad shots. He hit some really bad shots yesterday, but in clutch time, when your legs start to give, those tough shots become even tougher. And you have to start taking high-quality shots. And the ball has to pop and move from side to side. It didn't. Hell, there was a possession where Trayvon Mark in clutch time. Trey Johnson comes to the ball. He's not open. Basketball 101, everybody. We're taking you back to freaking elementary school with this basketball talk here. If I go to the ball and I'm not open because the defender's playing that tight on me, I'm not just going to stay there and stand by whoever's dribbling the ball. I'm going to go somewhere else. It took Trey Johnson like 7 seconds to realize, oh, I should probably get out the way. Trayvon Mark gives it to Caden Shedrick. Caden Shedrick gives it back to Trayvon Mark. Trayvon Mark takes a horrible three-point shot. And it's just like, bro, what are we doing here? Not having a legitimate post presence either. That killed too. Again, as good as Caden Shedrick was towards the end, more defensively and also having the offense created for him, he wasn't that guy you could just throw the ball in the post to and get you a bucket. When it comes to March, you need those types of guys. They don't have to be your best player, but getting shots close to the rim because a guy could throw up a jump hook or make a little, Hakeem up and under, easy bucket, man, that settles your team down. Fremantle hit his yesterday. He hit that nasty little fadeaway one-hander over Caden Shedrick, and that was such a bad foul for Caden Shedrick, too. The little push in the back. God, That's horrible. Like, bro, there's no need to do that. You're in the right spot. Why would you ever extend? Why? Like, he's coming to you. You can make him travel if you beat him to the right spot and just put your hands up and hold your ground. For some odd reason, he lunges into Fremantle right after Trey Johnson just missed a free throw. So it's an 80-79 game. Fremantle makes his free throws. Texas gets a horrible step back from Trey Johnson. Go back down on the other end. Jason Kent doesn't box out on Swain. Ball game. Ball game right there. One team made winning smart plays. The other team didn't. And that was the story of Texas basketball all year long. If you want to give an example of what did this 2025 Texas men's basketball team look like, what were they about, go watch that second half of Xavier. That's what it was. That's what we saw all year long, just so inconsistent. We saw great plays, great moments from Trey Johnson and Trayvon Mark and Arthur Kaluma, sprinkle him in there, Shedrick, Pope, etc. Yeah. And then we saw a team that was completely out of whack and had no chemistry and made you think, man, have these guys even been practicing? That's what we saw.
Wags makes a great point. They were so much more aggressive in the first half. Kendall Weaver had 3 steals in the first half. And in the second half, it seemed like he was out of sorts. Yeah. He was, like you said, he was helping when he didn't need to help and leaving shooters open. And they got out of sync. And it was really odd because they were playing off each other so well in the first half. And you're like, man, these guys are dogged and determined and they're putting it together. They're inspired. And then it just started, like you said, it was one kind of, what are you thinking play after another, right down to Trey Johnson missing that free throw in a 1-point game with a minute left. That just bothered me so much because if you're clutch, you're clutch. Huh? And free throws are free.
Yeah.
And to miss that, I think it just
that deflates your whole team.
It does. It deflates the whole team. Your best player is at the line with the game on the line, chance to tie and keep, infusing some life into your team. Texas did not score a field goal in the final 2 minutes and 53 seconds. So, they had to have free throws because they weren't making anything. And that was, Texas ended up hitting 4 of its last 21 shots.
Jeez.
Wrong time to go cold.
Yeah. And Xavier.
All right, 4 of the last 17.
Yeah.
Texas hit 4 of the last 17 field goals from the 12-minute mark to the end of the game. Like, after shooting it so well all through the game. And it was, Tremont Marks started missing. He missed. He hit one of his last 6 shots.
Yeah.
After, playing so well, taking good shots, hitting them in the first half. He just went cold from the 12-minute mark on, and that's tough. When your best players, when the guys you count on to make plays suddenly go from hitting to going cold, that puts a chill through the rest of the team and leads to, issues. But Joe K, I kind of hinted at this already. CDC's wife just had surgery, so I think things are going to be on a little bit slow, for a minute. But I would expect there's a couple things working here. I'm not going to get too out there on this because, but I've said it already. Things are going to slow down for a second, especially if the leading candidate is still coaching in the tournament. And so, but the portal opens next week, and I think everyone's aware of that. So, yeah. Well, we need to talk about how Zay's bracket is already destroyed. My man was loving the upsets. You had High Point, right?
Yeah, I had High Point. They were fighting, man. They were fighting, man. Oh, Matt Painter, excuse me. His team just smart, established Indiana basketball. Classic Hoosiers crap that you see. Let's just slow the game down. Braden Smith might be the best point guard in the freaking country. He just makes every right play. Like, the dude, I'm faster than Braden Smith, but he's just so smart, man. There's just guys like that. I wouldn't go as far as calling him Steve Nash. That would be flat out insane, but he has those Nash-like qualities where Nash just always made the right play. And you're like, how does this freaking mailman plumber ass looking Steve Nash dominating all these crazy athletic brothers in the association? Like, that's the vibe that Braden Smith gives you. And as good as High Point's been this year, they got close. They made it a 3-point game at one point, but Purdue always did something to counter that and ended up getting the win. So, yeah, your boy's 0-2 right now. Not a good start. Bracket busted, but hey, it happens.
It happens.
It happens. Louisville screwed me over. And I should have known with Louisville. Once Pat Kelsey came out and started bitching about Louisville's seeding being an 8th seed and how they didn't deserve that, Pat Kelsey, just be grateful that you're in the tournament. That's the wrong mentality, bruh. And he has a horrible tournament record. I should have looked at that too because, Greg McDermott for Creighton, his record's pretty good. So I thought Louisville playing in Kentucky, that might give them the advantage. No, Creighton curb stopped those boys. They looked really good. So 0-2 right now. It's all good. I ain't tripping. I feel like it's going to turn around eventually. Auburn better quit playing with Alabama State, though. Like, this is one of them tournaments. We all know March Madness. You can't play with your food. You better leave
Auburn up 29-26 with 3:58 left in the first half. Man, I'll say this. Houston.
Yeah, they ain't playing.
They ain't playing. And we got Will Wade on the floor against his alma mater. And after reports that he's leaving for NC State. So that game is 6-6 with 14 minutes left in the first half. McNeese and Clemson.
Will Wade, so slime ball.
What?
Slime ball. Will Wade is a slime ball.
Who says that?
I say that. You kidding me? The hell? You take a job while you have another team in a tournament that hasn't played yet? Come on, man. Yeah, Showcase says, well, I got my bag, Wade. Which maybe he's thinking since that's his alma mater, like, or no, he's going to North Carolina State. So again, there's no,
Yeah, he's playing his alma mater right now.
His alma mater, yeah. Like, come on, Will Wade. I would say you're better than that, but he's probably not. Like, this is probably exactly how he is. But yeah, that team could have done something really special. They still can, I guess, but how could you not have that in the back of your mind if you're playing for McNeese State? Like, all right, well, this is our last hoorah with the coach. Like, I don't see Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen on that team. This ain't the last dance. like, come on.
Man, if we saw one of those two or both of those two dudes at McNeese,
yeah, it'd be over.
Maybe Texas should have gone after Will Wade. Wade, as I've said for a week, Wade wanted Texas. Texas did not have mutual interest.
Yeah, so you could smell that slime from a mile away. see that slime.
Okay.
Well,
let me get your thoughts on Sean Miller, Zay, because if he is the leading candidate, as it might appear, what are your thoughts on Sean Miller?
Solid. Like, the dude, just seeing his team play for him last night, seeing the adjustments that he was willing to make. When your two best players this time of the year don't have the best game, they were good enough. Conwell, Fremantle, they were good enough, but it wasn't their best game by any means. And when your two best players are up and down in the 40 minutes that you have in March Madness, a lot of the time you're going to lose those games. All the rest of his guys just got stronger. Swain, McKnight, Foster, Hughley hit a huge three. Dude went 1 for 6, but the three that he hit, that was a killer. Got Maddox, Hunter, all of those guys. He only played 8 last night. All those guys were tough.
Hughley hit a 3 with 5 minutes left that continued a stretch where Xavier was making their run.
Yeah, he got his tongue out and stuff, doing all that crazy stuff, and the fans, they started getting rowdy, and Texas, they just couldn't overcome that. But Sean Miller made adjustments. He said, look, guys, we're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the nation. Let's run in transition. Let's play inside out, get in the paint, play off 2 feet, kick it out to our shooters. Our shooters, be ready. When the ball's in your hands, don't even think about it. Let it fly. They did that, and they looked incredible. Like, Sean Miller, he's proven himself. From his first stint at Xavier to Arizona to back at Xavier, he's proven himself. at that type of university, you're not going to get the big time McDonald's All-Americans. You're not going to get the Cooper Flags or, going a little old school here, Carmelo Anthony's that came in for Boeheim and won a national championship his first year there. Like, you're not going to get that, Xavier. But those guys, he molds them into his type of player. They're physical, they're tough, they're no nonsense, and they can shoot on the offensive end because they run a high quality offense where guys are constantly moving and touching the ball. Like, there's times when he'll go ISO, especially in the post with Fremantle and stuff. But again, we've been talking about it all week long. The reason why they're so good is because Fremantle's a bucket on the inside. When he starts killing guys on the inside, it makes you help and double team. And then he gets hockey assist out of it, throws it on the outside, and they hit shots from the outside. That's Sean Miller teams in the half court. Otherwise, they're playing like this. They're playing a fast, fun brand of style. Again, tough, hard-nosed. Like Sean Miller, that's a solid candidate. And you can tell his guys love him. And they have fun out there. Like, that's important. So I don't think it's a bad, thought at all to put Sean Miller in the mix. But like Xavier, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they beat Illinois tomorrow night.
Who would be your ideal?
Love TJ Otzelberger. I think Tommy Lloyd at Arizona is solid. I've always heard good things about him. My Austin Knight homie, Eric McCullum, who went to Gonzaga when Tommy Lloyd was an assistant, raves about Tommy Lloyd. Like, says that he's one of the best basketball minds he's ever been around. Said that he trusted Tommy Lloyd at times more than Mark Few when he was at Gonzaga, just because Tommy Lloyd's that good. So that's a thing. I still see what Tony Bennett's doing. I know there's nothing sexy about Tony Bennett's brand of basketball. I know a lot of people would like an offensive coach, and Tony Bennett's a defensive mind. But like I said a couple of weeks ago, I'd rather have ugly wins than pretty losses any day. Tony Bennett is a national championship coach. He might be just chilling, waiting for the right opportunity to come up. If I'm Chris Del Conte, I'd give him a call. Like, you could bring in a good assistant. Like, that's possible. We've seen it before. And again, Virginia, where he won, I think Texas speaks a little louder than Virginia and the type of players that you could get there. I get it. It was the ACC, but if you can win national championships at Virginia, I think you can win at Texas. Please believe me. So I'd let Tommy Bennett know what's up. Tony Bennett, excuse me. But there's a few guys on the list. Again, Otzelberger, Tommy Lloyd, Bennett. I know people.
Grant McCaslin at Tech.
Yeah. Grant McCaslin isn't bad. He does his thing. But they just throwing money around in Lubbock, though. So
Cody Campbell. Rex St. Charles says, if Xavier was so good, why were they only in the first four?
Because it's Xavier.
In the Big East, they don't.
It's Cincinnati's not a cool place. Like, I don't know what are we talking about here? Why Cincinnati's not a fun place to be. Xavier.
They had wins over UConn and Marquette this season. They lost to Nova on the road. They lost at Creighton. They lost to St. John's twice. They lost at Georgetown. They split with Marquette. They split with UConn. They lost at Cincinnati. They lost at TCU, and they lost on a neutral floor to Michigan. So, and some of their losses were earlier in the year, although, they lost to St. John's. And St. John's is a 2-seed. Got to give it up to the Pasta Primavera. Rick Pitino,
Rivera, baby.
Baby.
Let's get down on the table.
Let's get down on the table.
Get down on the table. Screw it.
Put your butt on the table. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. I keep here, Rick. Come on, man. Yo, I'd holler at Scott Drew too. I'd holler at Scott Drew.
I know.
I give him a call. Like, Scott, what's good? Like, Waco ain't popping like he used to be, which has never been popping, but another guy that's won a national championship at Baylor. At freaking Baylor. Are you kidding me? That makes you just want to strangle someone's neck. This guy's winning at Baylor, then I'm pretty sure he can win at Texas too. Like, there's a few guys. I think Chris Del Conte has options here.
Yeah.
But, gotta have some buyouts, I'm sure. We all know it's a process, like you said, Chip. But there's some guys that, we're giving the call to. Matt Painter. I was just talking about Matt Painter and his old Indiana, like Hoosier style play.
No one wants to hear this, but Bill Self has looked at the Texas job and I was told, he told DeLoss Dodds, hey, always check in with me to see if I'm happy. The problem is Bill Self's making $10.6 million a year. Steve Sarkisian's making 10.8. Like, unless Bill Self's willing to take a massive pay cut, but I don't know. Sometimes it's timing.
Yeah. Greg McDermott. I'd give Greg McDermott a call over at Creighton. He's had some really good teams. Again, it's freaking Lincoln, Nebraska. Like, nobody wants to be there. How the hell are you going to the Elite Eight? A lot. How the hell are you always winning over there? Like, I don't get that. Like, that's I like those type of coaches that are winning at schools where you're like, where the hell is this? Where you have to look up where the hell it is.
Okay, now what does this mean? What is my man Rex St. Charles saying? Bill Self comes to Texas. I may throw my diploma into Lady Bird Lake.
Rex, we don't like Bill?
You don't like Bill?
Bill seems cool.
I love Bill.
Yeah, I love Bill too. Bill.
Two national championships.
Yeah.
Including one in what? 3 years ago?
Was that 3 years ago?
Yeah, because it was right before RT beat Kansas by 20 in the Big 12 tournament final. Yeah, I like Bill Self. That's just me. Rex says, I don't like Bill at all. Okay. All right. Yeah. And Royale Ivy, we talked about this. Royale he's got a great resume. He's never coached in college. Now, that would be a big leap for Texas, and Texas just took a big leap on Rodney Terry. So, again, timing. Yeah. I love Roy. I think Roy would succeed wherever he goes.
Royale Ivy.
He's just a dude who gets it done. Yeah. I'm intrigued. I don't know if he needs to go to a smaller school in college, but that's what Texas would tell him. Texas doesn't hire first-time college head coaches. It's expecting a lot. And, I think, and maybe Roy's happy in the association.
I don't know. I think he's very relatable because he's young. We'd actually get some brothers from Africa because he would recruit there.
Texas would have some brothers from Africa.
Yes.
With some
Like, you kidding
size.
me? Yes. Give me
Go.
a freaking 6'11", 7'5" wingspan, 33-inch vertical.
Why are we
that blocks
stopping at
everything.
6'11"?
Huh?
Why
I
are we
mean, I'm trying to
stopping at
be
6'11"?
realistic. I'm trying to be realistic here.
How tall
But
was Akeem?
he
Straight
was
up
like
7 feet?
6'10". He was like 6'10". He was
Okay.
technically undersized, I guess, for a sitter. I mean, if you compare like Mutombo and Shaq and Patrick Ewing and guys that he used to dominate back in the 90s. But yeah, his footwork was just so crazy.
Soccer player.
So quick. Yeah, soccer player, just straight athlete. Like I'm
They
out here
list him as straight up.
outrunning cheetahs. I'm out here touching the top of giraffes. You know what I'm saying? That's my training every day. Barefoot, throwing spears 100 yards, catching my prey and eating
What is
it.
wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Killing me. They list Akeem at 7 feet.
Did he really?
Meanwhile, McNeese has opened up a 10-point lead on Clemson.
Yo, looking good.
Interesting times. Auburn now up 10 on Alabama State. Houston up 37 on SIU Edwardsville. And Zay's bracket is busted.
Oh, yeah.
Well, who'd you have going deep?
My final four is got Florida winning it all. Got Tennessee up in there.
Ooh. Did you fill out a women's bracket?
No, I need to.
You got Houston in there?
No, I got Houston losing the. Who I got Houston losing? I think
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Kelvin Sampson never beats Rick Barnes. I mean, Rick Barnes never beats Kelvin Sampson.
Well, I hope that's different this time around.
We
know Rick, man. Picking Rick is risky during this time of the year.
Yeah.
Rick be playing. Rick be getting tight and stressed out and stuff.
You better hope Zakai Ziegler is like TJ Ford, can calm him down and say, hey, I got this, coach.
He's so good, man. He's not going to play in the association. I'm sure he'll do G League for a little bit, and then he'll realize I can make way more money in Europe. He's one of those guys that will play like 15 years overseas, like at a high level. He's incredible. Like 5'9". I don't know how Rick always gets lucky with these tiny ass guards that are just flat out incredible. Like DJ Augustine, just mentioned TJ Ford. Now Zakai Ziegler. He always gets them. Does a good job with them. So,
you know who Zakai Ziegler reminds me of a little bit, not necessarily by build, but Marquise Noel, the guard at K-State.
Yeah.
That went to the Elite Eight, 5'7", 155 pounds from Harlem.
Yep, both New York guys.
Dude had unbelievable confidence and just sheer will. Because that dude was a bucket getter, and he set up teammates. You got to have those dudes, man.
Yeah.
He averaged 17.6 points and 8.3 assists.
No, he could play. Like, he's in the G League killing, like doing his thing. Like,
okay.
He's always the guy. But
okay.
Yeah, I see that comparison. I like that comparison. Not too shabby.
Well, for your sake, I hope he plays like Marquise Noel for Tennessee to get to the Final Four. Because I thought last year's Tennessee team was Dalton Connect. They had dudes, man.
Yeah.
Adu.
who's now with Arkansas. Like, yeah, they messed that one up.
Mm.
Dang, McNeese State dunking all over Clemson. Jeez, man.
Will Wade doing a little conversating in that mid-game interview, which I think is just so weird.
I like the mid-game interview. Why don't you like it?
Because they probably want to be coaching their team.
Yeah, that's what the assistants are for. There's like 20 assistants.
I knew you'd say that.
They got someone. Like, again, not all assistants are like Steve McLean and Frank Haif, where they're just have their Johnson in their hand and not giving any feedback. Good grief, man. Again, RT's taking all the bullets. RT, he's Kevin Costner jumping in front of Frank Haif and Steve McLean. That's Whitney Houston bodyguard style. Like, I'm not going to let that happen. Again, RT, yeah, he deserves some blame, and then he also hired those guys. But, man,
all right,
I don't know what those dudes did.
This is a hot take. So Naaman says TJ Ford was great, but DJ Augustine might be the best point guard in Texas history.
Naaman, you tripping.
And
you're tripping, Naaman. You tripping.
I'm not going there. I love DJ Augustine. I love him. But TJ Ford, he had vision, speed. He had feel for the game like I've never seen. He transformed Rick Barnes. Like he took a coach and taught him how to get to the Final Four.
They were both similar at small guards that could take over the game at any time. TJ's athleticism puts him a step above what DJ brought to the table. You wouldn't see DJ catching tip dunks in games or getting steals and breakaway dunks and high flying above the rim. DJ wasn't doing that. TJ was. I'll never forget his tip dunk against Baylor in Waco.
Yeah.
That's one of the nasty. The dude was 5'10". They were around the same height. So, again, very similar statures and stuff. But TJ's bounce was different. Like, TJ probably had almost a 40-inch vertical or close. Yeah. Like, he was so athletic. And if it wasn't for the back issues, man, who knows what that career in the NBA would have been like. Because, you know, DJ was quick. DJ was smart. I would say DJ was a little bit better shooter from the outside. But there's just a certain it factor that TJ Ford had that, as good as DJ Augustine was, didn't quite have. But it was close. It was close.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're both so good. And DJ Augustine, what a great story. I mean, his family gets displaced by the hurricane in New Orleans, and he was able to, get to Texas, helped lead that 2008 team the year after Durant left to the Elite Eight.
Durant stays, they win it all that year.
Yeah.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but
yeah.
And he had to go. Should have been number one. We've talked about that. Stupid Portland Trailblazers. Oh, he can't bench press. And then he's so weak and soft. Oh, let's listen to Colin Cowherd. Because Colin Cowherd's always right? Like, nah, guys. Nah. Did y'all not see what he did as a freshman in college basketball against seniors and juniors and grown-ass men that are allowed to drink? He dominated those guys. Like, 26 and 11? He played center for Rick Barnes for a long part of that season.
Yeah.
He played center. Like, basketball strength and weightlifting strength are two different things. Like, you don't have to be Mark Henry, world's strongest man, to be a Hall of Fame basketball player at 6'10", 6'11". Like, I don't know. Whoever was in the front office at Portland, I hope they were fired the next year, because it's just a disgrace. Like, I get it. Greg Oden was good. He wasn't Kevin Durant good.
No. McNeese up 23-11.
Yo, these brothers, man.
25-11.
You know, they look so much faster than Clemson. Clemson has these doughy ass white boys. They got my one dude with the Jewish fro down low, number 4. I forget his name. He's got the long name. He's huffing and puffing. These McNeese boys running them out the gym right now.
Dude, number 4 just missed a point-blank layup.
He looks like freaking Jonah Hill out there.
He looks like
Jonah Hill.
Yes, he looks like a beer league misfit. What
Oh my gosh.
is going on?
Good grief, man. The ACC's so weak. I've never seen the ACC this bad. In the year where the SEC was absolutely incredible, the way Louisville looked early on, the way Clemson's looking right now, that's why the folks that picked Duke to win it all, you might be holding your breath a little bit, because the Blue Devils, they were tested early on in conference play where they completely steamrolled everybody. They lost to Clemson once. That was their only ACC loss. And Cooper Flagg, he's set to play tomorrow, but what percentage is he going to be at?
Right.
You know, how healthy is he going to be? Like, you got to win 6 games here. And Cooper bases a lot of his play off his athleticism and, you know, his size and his speed. So they should be able to get by their 16th seed, whoever the hell they play. But after that, it might get real for the Blue Devils.
So this Clemson McNeese game is being played in Providence,
Rhode Island.
because Clemson looks like they're playing at altitude. They're so winded. They got dudes traveling because they're like trying to make a spin move. They're falling down. They look like the most unathletic basketball team I've ever seen. God, I hope I picked McNeese to win this game. I think I changed it after the coaching announcement.
I think I changed it too.
God, yes, I did. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. No, man, there's a reason why. There's a reason why Will Wade has been a hot commodity here in these streets. Like, even though he's a slime ball, dude knows his stuff.
Dang.
Don't dang me. He is a slime ball.
Slimier than any other basketball coach?
Oh, I picked McNeese State. I didn't change that. Okay, cool.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. No, there's been slime balls in the game. Our boy Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
He ain't no saint.
Come on.
Yeah. Rick Pasta Primavera. Like, yeah. John Calipari.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
What's it called? You remember when God, what was the old Temple coach's name? Chaney?
John Chaney.
John Chaney. You remember when he was about to piece up John Calipari?
Calipari.
Yeah.
He walked into his post-game press conference.
Put up them Dukes. He was ready to go. Like,
oh yeah.
That was a classic moment in college basketball history. Yeah, he knew John Calipari, slime ball.
John Calipari can coach.
He could coach.
And he's had Worldwide Wes helping him get players. One of the great, that's a 30 for 30. I mean, they did a 30 for 30 on Calipari, but they didn't do enough on Worldwide Wes, because Wes is connected to everybody. He's that guy that knows Jordan and LeBron and every, connected shoe rep.
Is he like a Sonny Vaccaro?
Yeah, I mean, he's the Kaiser Sose of basketball. He just, like, he gets guys players. He helped Larry Brown get players at SMU. The guy's unbelievable. And he's like forever indebted to Calipari because Calipari helped him out when he was down. And yeah. Coach Cal was like, help Larry Brown get some players at SMU. And he did.
How do you feel about Larry Brown being a Detroit native? And
I love Larry Brown.
You love Larry?
Love him. All he did was win, and he was funny, and he just saw the game so clearly. And whatever he said made sense, and his teams won. He won a national championship at Kansas with Greg Popovich on his bench. Like, his coaching tree is amazing.
Right.
It's, Calipari, it's Greg Popovich. I love Larry Brown. I was crushed when that went sideways at SMU over SMU not having enough academic support to help its athletes. So a secretary ends up taking a test for a player, and that got Larry Brown fired. Come on, man.
Yeah, I was weak.
Come on. We got proctors, we got tutors helping kids every day with tests and papers.
Yeah, Derrick Rose didn't take his SATs. Some random fool took it for him.
Which was happening all the time, by the way.
All the time, yeah.
When that was the metric for kids to get into college, now it's not. Now the school can decide, you think this person can make it academically? They're in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love Larry Brown too, man. Like what he did with Allen Iverson in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
He completely changed Allen Iverson's career. Who knows? Allen Iverson still
finals.
Yeah.
He won with the Pistons.
Yeah, he won with the Pistons, and that team, they got Hall of Famers now, and Ben Wallace and Chauncey Billups and stuff. But that team,
right?
That's not one of those great 86 Celtics, 96 Bulls, 01 Lakers type of teams. Like,
right?
The fact that he won it with those guys. So
you had Rip Hamilton, you had Chauncey, you had, like you said, Ben Wallace, you had Rasheed Wallace, who loved Larry Brown. Yeah, and loved Larry Brown. Would do anything for Larry Brown. He behaved himself enough to win a championship with the Pistons and Tayshaun Prince. I mean, yeah, man. Yeah, I love Larry Brown.
Yeah.
Love that dude. And if I'm not mistaken, June Jones, who was the football coach at the time, gotten to know Larry Brown and was the one that pushed the school president to hire Larry Brown, which was a good move. They had it going for a minute. They've never been the same since. No one at SMU has been able to coach them up. And that's ridiculous because SMU should be a basketball power. Private school in Dallas. You kidding me? All that talent right there.
Right there. Right down. Like you could go to Oak Cliff right now and find a brother walking down the street that give you at least 15 rebounds.
Yeah. You just got to hire the right coach who can identify.
Keep him out of Oak Cliff. Hell, that's what Dennis Rodman was doing. Dennis Rodman was homeless roaming around in the streets of Dallas. And then somehow, whatever that Oklahoma school that he went to, tried out.
Southeast Oklahoma,
yeah. And Dennis Rodman, bona fide Hall of Famer, just like that. Like, yeah, they're everywhere in the D.
Yeah. Yeah. Larry Johnson.
Yeah, Grandmama.
You know.
Yo, the stories that I used to hear from Larry Johnson were crazy. They played LBJ back in the day in Austin. Larry Johnson, where'd he go? Skyline, Dallas Skyline, I think.
Yeah.
And Larry Johnson didn't travel with the team on the team bus. This is how good Larry Johnson was. Didn't travel with the team. The game was so big, they couldn't have it at LBJ High School. If you've been to LBJ High School, it's a smaller gymnasium. So they had it at the Burger Center. Grandmama freaking pulled up in a Corvette. Nobody asked any questions. Coach didn't say nothing. Larry said, I will be there. Don't worry about me. I'm not going to travel with the team. The dude drove from Dallas, Texas, hopped on I-35 all the way to Austin in a Corvette and dominated against LBJ and then drove that Corvette back home. I don't know if Frank the Tank was giving it to him. I'm sure those mobster boosters from UNLV had a little say when it came to
No, back then he went to SMU first.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that Corvette was probably straight from SMU.
Okay, that makes sense then.
But it was probably a Bankston Nissan 300ZX.
Okay.
Because those were the rage back then. Maybe it was a Corvette, but
I heard like two-door convertible.
I'm sure that was from SMU.
Okay.
Now, when the death penalty came down on football, basketball came apart, and Larry Johnson left and went to Odessa Junior College, then went to UNLV.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough. Seeing him at Odessa College just tearing it up, then heading off to UNLV with Jerry Tarkanian, the Shark.
The Shark, baby.
We call the arena at UNLV the Shark Tank. One of the great.
Them towels clean that he used to bite. I
What's
hope
that?
they were clean. Them towels that he used to bite, were they clean?
Oh, man. Yeah, he needs to make sure that those don't get mixed up with the sweat towels.
Oh my God. Yeah, he was kind of nasty. Not gonna lie. That was kind of gross. But
I thought it was funny how he'd bite into those towels.
Oh, that's can't be sanitary.
That's like Mike Tyson. He'd bite his glove. Like he had to, and then he had to bite.
Yeah, he bit a lot of things.
Ear off.
Yeah, he bit a lot of things, man. Oh, the Mormons. That 6-11 matchup, BYU, VCU. BYU is paying AJ DeBanza, 2025 number one basketball player in the nation, $8 million to be a one and done player at BYU next year.
That makes no sense to me. Like, by comparison, paying $1.5 million for JT Toppin at Texas Tech is a steal.
Yeah.
But at the time, that's how crazy the NIL money got this year. Because everyone, even Steve Sarkisian mentioned it, that teams were spending a lot of money in NIL ahead of rev share starting this fall. Because then the school's going to help pick up the tab. The school's going to use its television revenue to start helping pay players. So if the collective's got a bunch of money, hey man, let's go for it.
Right.
And Tech spent it on $1 million on Nigeri Kennedy. They spent $1.5 million on JT Toppin. Woo!
They got the Brinks truck at Aaliyah Chavez's house right now.
Oh yeah.
You know they do.
Oh, yeah.
Tech, they don't give a damn right now. But yeah, $8 million, AJ DeBansa. He's supposed to be the next Tracy McGrady. If you knew that, would you pay that for him? Next T-Mac.
For 1 year?
Yeah,
$8 million?
Yo, if I'm AJ DeBansa, I could lock my horny up for $8 million too. Because BYU got to keep it in the pants, man. Or else. So for $8 million, that's easy. That's easy. All that temptation and stuff. What temptation?
Can't even drink soda at BYU. You're not supposed to drink caffeinated soda.
Really? I thought they could do soda. I thought that was the big thing. My wife watches that Mormon show on Hulu with the messy girls.
Well, if they've changed it, because I know they used to not allow it.
I thought it was coffee. I think it was coffee. They can't drink coffee.
Well,
it might be soda too.
Caffeinated.
Yeah. But damn.
Let's see.
For $8 million?
Historically, did not allow the sale of caffeinated drinks on campus. BYU Dining Services announced in 2017 that they would now offer caffeinated sodas. 2017. So no smoking, no alcohol, no coffee, no tea.
Damn.
Golly, man. No sex.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
That's the
what
biggest
college is
one.
all about. What am I going to college for? Why
Right?
am I an athlete in the first place? I can't do the nasty?
I mean,
Like,
that's the whole point of being
the most.
Right. That's the whole point of being a star athlete. Put on your team issue gear and collect those ladies.
See, if I'm an NBA GM, which AJ DeBansa, he's supposed to be the number 1 pick 2 years from now in NBA draft, 2026 NBA draft. If I'm an NBA GM, how am I looking at this? Because on one side, you have a kid that's so dedicated. I mean, he's getting paid $8 million, so take that.
Yeah, it's easy to be dedicated for $8 million.
That's it. That's it right there. Like, am I just looking at the money and being like, okay, this kid, he's serious about the game. He's willing to not have sex, this and that, because you're going to get paid a lot in the NBA anyway. So is that a positive, or because I might want my players.
When was the last BYU player to make it? Like Jimmer Fredette never really made it in the NBA. Danny Ainge. There you go. Danny Ainge is older than I am. So enough said. All right, let's get a couple mentions in here. Hey, like our friends, really, Tom McKay at Audio Visual Consultations. So hopefully y'all got into the bracket challenge, because if you did, the TSU bracket challenge that we told you to get in on all week, pinned at the top of the TSU social media, because you're playing for a 65-inch 4K Samsung TV from Audio Visual Consultations. I love AV Consultations. Tom McKay, he's the best in the business, has been for 30 years. He's put big screens in 3 different houses for me, surround sound, the works, and he'll do it for you. All you got to do is call 255-8678. 255-8678. Tom and his crew will bring everything to you. And you're busy. You don't need to be lugging TVs around town, punching holes in your drywall. Let Tom and his crew do it for you. He's going to bring you the best price on big screens, surround sound, surveillance, electronic shades, new lighting. Got it all covered for you. avconsultations.com. Cover 3. I mean, get over to Cover 3 right now, because that is the spot to just settle in, watch all the games, have great food, great drink. We told you the firecracker shrimp at Cover 3 on the $7 social hour menu from 3:30 to 6:30 every day. That's on Scotty Scheffler's Masters menu, Champions Dinner. So go get the firecracker shrimp at Cover 3 for $7. You kidding me? Come on. Cover 3 Anderson, Cover 3 Round Rock, off Old Settlers, and Cover 2 at 183 in Lake Creek. And hey, all my guys out there snoring, it's time to get into the Sleep Cycle Center in Austin. Best technology. They're going to assess what's going on with you, because snoring is not just annoying to the person sleeping next to you. It could be a sign of a serious health risk, like a lack of oxygen while you're sleeping. And that is serious business. Reggie White, the Pro Bowl defensive end, died of sleep apnea. It's not something to be messed with. And you go to Sleep Cycle Center, go to sleepcyclecenter.com to set up an appointment. Tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you. They're going to take $100 off your sleep study. That sleep study is critical. It's going to tell exactly what's going on with you, how much deep sleep you're not getting because of sleep apnea. I mean, if you're waking up tired every day, there's a good chance that you have sleep apnea, and let the Sleep Cycle Center use their technology to determine exactly what issue you have and then come up with the remedy. Sleepcyclecenter.com. Tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you. And hey, date night, Salt Traders Coastal Cooking. Come on now. They got you set. I love the seafood at Salt Traders Coastal Cooking. I mean, the best selection of raw oysters. You go in for happy hour, you're getting $5 off the appetizer menu, which has all of my favorites: the mussels, the crab cake, the New Orleans barbecue shrimp, the grilled oysters. Like, just go in for happy hour and eat family style, and awesome date night. But the whole menu is fantastic. I'm just saying, right there at Zilker, Rolling Wood and Mopac. If you're going south to north on Mopac and rush hour, pull off and take in the happy hour at Salt Traders Coastal Cooking right there at Rolling Wood and Mopac. Salt Traders Coastal Cooking. All right, Zay. It's been an interesting day. We got a big weekend coming up, without a doubt. We got Texas LSU baseball. Head over to horns247.com right now. We got a behind the enemy lines on LSU baseball from Glenn West of Geaux, GEAUX 247. LSU baseball, they are ripping the cover off the ball. They're number 3 in the nation in batting average, hits, on-base percentage, scoring. They're averaging 10.4 runs per game. They have a 16-game winning streak that they're bringing to Austin. And Texas, meanwhile, has started losing that free base war. They're giving up too many free bags, Zay, with walks and hit batters, and it's caught up to them. It caught up to them Tuesday night. Let's put it that way. They're 7-2 when they lose the free base battle. And I'm talking about whether they give up more walks and free bases, hit batsmen, whatever, than the other team. They're 7-2 when they do, but Schloss is like, this has become a trend that needs to go away. So the pitching should be on point. It's been good. And now they know their roles. Tuesday was weird. 3 pitchers who'd been good were not good. And that led to all the trouble in that 8-7 loss in the 12th inning. Of course, the women will play Saturday night. They'll start their NCAA tournament. And then spring football, baby. Spring football beginning Tuesday and pro day Tuesday. Lots going on Tuesday.
Hell yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Any new information on pro day? And
What's that?
Any new information on pro day? The guys who will be participating that maybe we didn't see at the combine due to them not being invited?
I have put in a request for that information. I have not gotten it back yet.
Okay.
But I will keep you posted. I should have it tomorrow.
All right.
Give me a player on offense and a player on defense you're most excited to follow in spring football?
Player on offense. Oh, it's a good question. Well, let's start with the defense first. For me, I'm excited to see what Alex January looks like. Big shoes to fill. Obviously, you pick up Harold Canoe and you pick up Cole Bavard and Travis Shaw, but Alex January is one of those guys that's been in the program and he could take a jump. I know we're very high on Justice Terry and, Josiah Sharma.
Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma.
Yeah, exactly. But Alex January got a little bit of clock at times last year. I want to see what he's about and see how Kenny Baker and Pete Witkowski whipped him into shape and if he could be a big-time contributor for this 2025 Texas football team. So, yeah, that's who I would say on the defense. On the offense, I'm going to give you two guys. Aaron Butler, Freddie DeBose.
Okay.
I'm glad to see what those guys are about. Dark horses. I know everybody loves Kalik Lockett and Jamie French and Dalen McCutcheon when it comes to this wide receiver class that's early enrollees, but hell, I'll throw Parker Livingstone in that mix as the returning guys going into their sophomore season or redshirt freshman season. I don't know who's going to redshirt freshman or who is a redshirt freshman or a sophomore, but those returning wide receivers, are they going to make a name for themselves and maybe steal a spot alongside Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore? We don't know. Like, that spot's wide open still, to the point where we don't know if Sark's going to jump back in the portal and see if there are any wide receivers available that he might want to bring aboard.
Right. He's probably going to wait to see how spring ball goes before deciding on if he'll get in the portal, which will be open April 16th through the 25th for football. Opens next week for basketball. That's good.
So, yeah, I'm kind of cheating there by picking three guys for the offense, but I put them all in the same category because we don't know which one's going to stand out. We didn't see any of those three guys, DeBose, Butler, or Livingstone, play this past season. So what does that mean? Like, who has taken a step forward and saying that, I'm that guy. I'm that guy that deserves Chris Jackson and Steve Sarkisian's respect because I'm going to be reliable in the gauntlet of the season that you have in the Southeastern Conference to be that dude at the third wide receiver spot. Like, that's going to be a very interesting battle, and I'm really excited about it. How about you? Offense, defense, who are you excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go for something a little unsexy on offense and, look at the offensive linemen. what's going on at center. Excited to see what Neto Umazulu finally does with his opportunity. Brandon Baker, Andre Kojo. I know that's a lot. Probably should have said position group, but those guys, that's going to be it all starts there. Right. Then on defense, I am very intrigued by the corner battle that we're going to see. Everybody trying to replace Jade Barron. You got, Jalen Gilbo's out there. You got, Warren Roberson and Wardell Mack, Santana Wilson. I want to see who emerges. And plus, you got Dwayne Aquina and Mark Orfe now. So it's a new opportunity for everybody because the entire secondary coaching has changed. So that can be frustrating for the players. I think Tavondre Sweat got tired of having a new defensive line coach every year. And then he finally had Bo Davis for 2 years after it was kind of a revolving door there for a minute. And but hey, man, it's good.
Yes, it's frustrating, but also Pete Kwiatkowski hasn't gone anywhere. Steve Sarkisian hasn't gone anywhere. Kyle Flood hasn't gone anywhere. Like, the main guys have been here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
the stability has come with Sarkisian. It was a mess under Herman, and then into the Sarkisian era for a guy like Tavondre Sweat. But yeah. And listen, if you're a guy who hasn't gotten a chance to start yet, new coaches, that's a big opportunity. You may have won over the trust of Terry Joseph and Blake Gideon and the guys behind the guys who, were getting opportunity. This is their time to shine now. So I think it's going to be really one of the most intriguing springs we've had. Yeah. Because there are so many new faces. Now, as Sarkisian pointed out, a lot of these guys got playing time. Arch Manning's got a couple starts, and Cole Hudson's had some starts, and Ryan Wingo got playing time. So it's not like you're completely starting over, but you are in a lot of ways at positions like right tackle and center. You're going to have a new center for the first time in 6 years. That's crazy.
That's pretty nuts.
That's crazy. That Jake Majors was the center for 5 years. Like, there are NFL careers that don't go 5 years. And that dude started 57 games. So, all right, let's get to the chip shot, because I'll get back into the Rodney Terry stuff for those who've tuned in. We talked about it a lot at the top of the show, but Texas is going to move on from Rodney Terry. It's going to take a minute. There's a couple things going on here. Chris Del Conte's wife just had surgery. So Del Conte's, his mind is there. And then, if the leading candidate, and I think Sean Miller, the head coach at Xavier, is a leading candidate. If that coach is still coaching in the NCAA tournament, there's going to be a quiet period until, which can get interesting, to say the least, with the portal opening next week. So, but yeah, we talked about all the whys. It's, you have to decide if the coach coming in needs to be someone who could get you to a national championship. So that's where CDC's mind has always been with these hires. He's done an amazing job with it. You look at Mike White and Vic Schaefer and Bob Bowman, the new swim coach. Texas is number 1 in men's swimming and diving. They're going to head off to the NCAA championships next week. Edric Florial's already won a national championship. So that's the standard, and Del Conte will try to meet that standard when he ultimately replaces Rodney Terry. So okay. Yeah. And listen, we got a hot board up, and it's got some really attractive names on it.
Buzz Williams.
No. Sorry. Did that come across bad?
Yeah, it popped up.
That's not going to happen.
Okay. Good.
That's not going to happen.
That 3-piece suit. Old Reverend looking ass. Nah, man.
Yeah.
Yo, these McNeese State boys, good grief.
They're up 20. McNeese is up 20
God.
on Clemson with 17 left to play. And Clemson looks like they're running in quicksand.
Yeah, are they playing in Denver?
No, they're playing in Providence. They look like they're playing on the top of Mount Everest with how winded Clemson is. First of all, can we get some shorts that fit number 4? Like, he looks like he just got pulled in from the marching band, and they only had one uniform, and it's one that doesn't fit him. I'm just saying.
This Will Wade guy. Yay! I can't even lie. He doing this thing.
Well, he wanted to come to Texas.
He wanted to. CDC said, "Nah, you too slimy for me, bro. you too crooked for me. You got too much, negative energy going on. We can't do it." But
well, he's got really good energy going on the basketball floor.
That's for damn sure.
Because they're the 12 seed, and they are beating the brakes off of the 5 seed.
Yeah, it's
Clemson.
It's ugly. There's always that 5-12 every year. And it seems like it's going to be McNeese State being up on Clemson. But all right, y'all, let's get to the right call. Before that, though, shout out to the great guys at McCall Custom Homes, ATX Custom Homes and Remodelers, top quality at affordable prices, in-house architects, licensed, insured. They are the best. The father and son duo have been doing it for over 40 years, and they're all about quality and craftsmanship. So check them out at their website, McCall Custom Homes, ATX.com. Shoot our man Mike a call at 512-633-9580. That's 512-633-9580. Go to Facebook, Instagram, and search for McCall Custom Homes. When it comes to making your house into something truly special, remodeling the kitchen, living room, bathroom, doesn't matter. They will take care of you and hook you up. They will build value into your homes. Check out McCall Custom Homes and Covert Bee Cave, Covert Automotive Dealership, that have been doing it in the greater Austin area for over 100 years and been doing it really well. If you don't want to take my word for it, then listen to the great people of Covert Bee Cave and the great customers of Covert Bee Cave.
It's a family atmosphere. It's not just when you stop in, you buy your car.
From communication to expertise to professionalism, it's exactly what I expected from the Covert family.
So they make it so easy for me. That car that I wanted, they found it, and I didn't know if I can afford it, but they make it possible.
You'll see that they really will move mountains. They're going to do what they need to do to get you what you want and make sure you're happy with it.
Come and experience it for yourself.
Covert, born and raised in Austin.
7 terrific brands to choose from: Buick, GMC, Ram, Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, and Cadillac. Go to covertbcave.com to see all the latest specials and inventory. Nobody beats a Covert deal. Not now, not ever. And if you're looking for a full-service wholesale and retail plant nursery and landscape supplier here in the ATX, check out the guys at Leaf Landscape Supply. Go check out both of their locations here in Austin, one off of Monterey Oaks and 290, the other off of Pond Springs Road up north when it comes to a collection of specialty plants. Rare plants, large quantities of supplies that fulfills any landscaping job. Trendy house plants. Leaf Landscape Supply is your one-stop shop for everything you need, and they strive for excellence. So, they're good with us here at TSU. They can be good with you too when it comes to decorating your home, your apartment, your workplace, anywhere where you could decorate and have beautiful plants around to make you feel happier as a person. Leaf Landscape Supply will help with that. So check out their website at leaflandscapesupply.com. And remember, when you go in, you make a purchase, let them know. The boys at Texas Sports Unfiltered put you on, and you get 10% off. 10% off at Leaf Landscape Supply. All right, Chip. Let's get off basketball a little bit because got to get back to the petty for the right call today. So Tyreek Hill, I think he just got married. And again, good for him. Tyreek Hill, finding love. Love's a beautiful thing. We all know.
Got married to Kelly Vaccara's sister.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. There. But yeah, the 31-year-old Hill says he plans on having another kid with his wife. Now, again, that's not too far off. People are probably wondering, Zay, why the hell are you bringing this up for the right call today? Of course he would want to have kids with his new wife. That's the normal, wholesome thing to do. Not if you already have 12 kids, if you're Tyreek Hill, with 5 different women. 5 different women. And apparently he had 5 kids in the past 13 months with 5 different women after he just got married recently. So I don't know, man. Is this
Yes, you do.
Big Love Mormon? We've been talking BYU. Is this just a part of Tyreek Hill's religion? Or is he really just out in these streets, raw dogging, no Jimmy hat wearing, living? Because that's what it seems like. Like, bruh. Again, I hope he's a terrific father. I hope he's not pulling an Anthony Edwards where he's neglecting the kids and say he doesn't want any type of custody or visitation. Like, we already bashed Anthony Edwards for that type of thinking and how he's gone about it with one of his baby mamas. But damn, Tyreek Hill, for real? Like, Jack says, I doubt if they're sister wives. They might be. They might be. They might be cool. I don't know. I know Nick Cannon, he has like kind of a sister wife thing going on. I know, the singer Neo, Chip. So sing the love songs. Yeah, that Neo. He has a sister wife situation going on. A poly type relationship where he has 3 women.
Because Tyreek Hill's from Georgia.
Okay.
There ain't no sister wives in Georgia.
What? We don't know that. It's not known for sister wives and stuff, but we don't know.
Oh, that's up there in Utah. You know what I'm saying? No, I think you know. And I think Tyreek is one of them dudes who's making a lot of money right now.
12 kids is nuts. 5 different women, 5 kids in a 13-month span is insane. Like, dude, like, you have no control. Like, I get it. It's undefeated. Like, we've known that for a long time. But
What do I always say? Don't cost yourself money, especially when you're involving newborn lives. Like 12 kids, 5 different women. How is he going to be a dad to any of those kids? Ay, ay, ay.
I mean, one of them's going to be a crazy athlete, though, you would think. Like,
Crazy.
one of them has to make
Crazy
it.
is right.
Like, it's only the stats. The stats don't lie. Like, one of them has to turn out to be like Pops, all world, fastest guy on the field.
I love Kenny Vaccaro. Like, I love Kenny Vaccaro. That dude, man, he lost his dad at a young age. It really mattered to him. He overcame a lot. I love Kenny Vaccaro. And when I heard that Tyreek Hill was marrying Kenny Vaccaro's sister, I was like, oh no, I hope. Because remember, the first thing we ever heard about Tyreek Hill was him shoving a pregnant girlfriend down the stairs when he was at Oklahoma State.
That was not a good story. That wasn't a good moment.
Anyway, people can change, but it doesn't sound like things are changing very much. Just saying.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Gonzaga, Georgia just started. Gonzaga's up 21-3.
Hello.
With 13 minutes left in the first quarter. Yo, Mark Few, CDC, ring, 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 ring. I just, make sure Mark Few ain't drinking no more. Have them have a conversation with Steve Sarkisian, because we all know you could change, like you just said, Chip. People could change. Mark Few got that DWI.
Yeah, it's not like the guys, stumbling around in the alleys in a brown bag.
I'm just saying. We got to make sure, we just got to do our due diligence in the research. Just make sure my man's off the yak. And even if he is on the yak, make sure he has a driver that could take him around safely. You know what I'm saying?
You are killing me.
All right. They're bringing back quarterback season 2. We've had starting 5, the NBA version. We had receiver with our guy Amon-Ra St. Brown. Quarterback was the original. Quarterback season 2 will be coming out this July. The quarterbacks that will be in the show: Joe Burrow, your boy Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins is coming back in season 2. Who Kurt was a part of season 1. We all saw what happened this past season. Kurt's first year in Atlanta, coming off the Achilles injury, wasn't good. Wasn't good. Got his spot taken by Michael Penix Jr. Is out here on his Steve McClain, Frank Haith-ish, because he is stealing money from the Atlanta Falcons at this point, which it was their dumbasses that wanted to pay him all that money to begin with. So
I wonder how much money the guys get for doing the show. I bet it's a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah, it's something.
Because Kirk Cousins collects money the way that wine collectors collect wine.
No, like, I love Kirk Cousins from the series to from the season 1. Like, it gave me a whole new outlook on Kirko.
Right.
He was cool. Like, he was
Yeah.
down to earth.
He let him film his therapy sessions.
Yeah. That's what I really appreciated, because we all know when you're in the business of being a professional athlete, especially in the NFL, where everybody is programmed to be macho and tough and, you know, just rough around the edges. Kirk was vulnerable.
Guess how much money Kirk Cousins has made in the NFL?
We're talking like, he's almost in the 200 millions, ain't he?
293, almost $294 million.
Yeah.
Like, that dude has killed every contract situation. Killed it. I don't think he's ever been to has he been to a divisional round in the playoffs? Has he been? I know he's not been.
So. That year that Minnesota was really good, they lost to the Giants, Saquon and them, and Daniel Jones. So he's never been close to a Super Bowl.
$294 million.
Hell of an agent he's got there.
Way to go, Kirko.
Way to go, Kirko, man.
Way to go.
Damn, Champ.
Champ is loving on him some Zay.
Jeez, man. He's made it uncomfortable for the last hour or so, and now he gets up when the show's about to end.
Because you're like sitting in his spot. According to him.
Yeah, according to him.
Isn't that where he naps, you said?
Yeah. One of the many places.
Yeah.
In our spot where he likes to go. But
he just wants to be
he's just a good boy.
Yeah. He just wants to hang out, man. He wants to hang out with Zay.
Yeah.
For Zay Hilton. Know what I'm saying?
Man, the SEC ain't doing too good right now. With Georgia getting blasted 27-3. What are we doing?
Georgia.
27-3?
If you got Georgia going anywhere in this tournament, you were not watching the right SEC teams. If something happened to Florida, or if something happened to Auburn, or something happened to your Tennessee Volunteers,
My Tennessee Volunteers, huh?
or Bama, that'd be one thing. But if something happened to Georgia, I'm expecting that.
Yeah, I don't know how you could go against Gonzaga during the tournament. Mark Few and those guys, they've proven year after year, no matter what their seeding is, they're always going to be a tough out. So this doesn't surprise me at all. But damn, 27-3.
I mean,
Like,
I gotta take a peek at what's going on with Georgia's shooting. That's awful.
Like, did you practice all week?
Yeah, did they?
What were y'all working on? Where was everybody's mindset?
Right now, Georgia's 2 of 12, and Gonzaga is 11 of 14, and 4 of 4 from 3. Georgia is 2 of 12, 0 of 4 from 3, and has 7 turnovers already. 7 turnovers. There's 11 minutes left in the first half.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I mean, they're just throwing up all over themselves.
Yo, McNeese is so quick, man. You're right. They just make Clemson look so slow.
So slow. Like,
Clemson has these Bryant, Big Country Reeves looking dudes down low. Wow, McNeese State, they are just running and gunning, jumping passing lanes. Like, ACC is trash. I can't get over how bad the ACC is.
And how awkward. And Will Wade must have said something like, hey, man, We're not talking about my job status. This is all about you guys. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a lot of y'all with me anyway.
Right.
Like,
who wants to come with me? Show me.
Who wants to go to Raleigh, North Carolina?
Show me how much you want to go to Raleigh, North Carolina from Louisiana, Shreveport.
Yeah. All right. Great show, my friend. Let's bring in the open gym guys. Patrick, Matt, fellas.
What's up, fellas?
How you doing, guys? Another day. Tournament started. Got my quad box up, ready to go.
There we go.
Oh yeah, quad.
I got my Sweet 16 McNeese State Cowboys dominating right now, so I'm happy.
That's a good pick.
That's a good pick, Matt.
Man,
McNeese is rolling.
Clemson just looks so bad
and slow, clumsy. Man, I saw two different guys try to make a spin move and they fell down. Travel.
Yeah, this is a game. If I'm Clemson, I'm like, just run into them. They're gonna foul you every play. They're fouling almost every play. So you just go into them and get like they're playing with so much energy. It's pretty easy to get fouls, but they just fall over and then don't get in a foul. It's really bad.
It's really bad. All right, fellas.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. Have a great show. We'll be back tomorrow.
Enjoy the rest of today's March Madness action. Welcome into Open Gym, everybody, here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Myself, Patrick Davis, alongside Matt Galatzan from Texas Longhorns on SI, getting into all of the sports news around the world of Texas sports and the professional sports teams, all that good stuff. And of course, whatever you guys want to talk about there on the text line. Text line's open 512-222-9328. And of course, the chat is open as well. We try and get to everybody and continue the show with you because Open Gym, it means you guys as well. Matt, disappointing night last night. How is your bracket looking so far at the beginning of today, though?
Honestly, I haven't looked at it, but I feel like I'm doing okay. I feel good about this McNeese pick. I'm pretty sure I picked Creighton, if I remember correctly.
Okay, did you have Gonzaga over Georgia?
I believe so. Yeah,
that
looks pretty good right now. I think I had BYU. Obviously, I had Auburn.
That one's still close. That one's still a game. The rest of these don't really look like much of a game right now, but that one is still at least a game. It's still single digits. So,
hey, I'm undefeated right now. Apparently.
Oh, there you go. All right. See if you can get the perfect bracket. Win whatever I think if you had the perfect bracket on X, you get to go to Mars. I believe that was the prize. I did not read what the rules and regulations were for that, as I didn't want to go to Mars. So it's like, okay, that prize is not. Hey, would you like to probably die in space? All right.
I mean, that's one way to go. That'd be pretty legendary.
Yeah, that one feels like either that or they're like, we meant Mars, like we just like put you in a simulator for a week. That's what you get. That's your prize. I don't know what it was. Yeah, I saw that pop up and I was like, not a prize I'm aiming for, guys. Can I get the cash equivalent? I feel like the cash equivalent's pretty good for that one, though.
Yeah, I would. I'll take 50% of that cash equivalent, honestly.
I'll take that for it. Oh, all right. Well, let's get into it, Matt, as we get into what the top story of the day is today, which is, of course, Texas losing last night to Xavier, blowing a game where it felt like they were in control for most of the game and then just stopped playing. Really just stopped playing basketball for a little bit there and didn't look like they were necessarily trying to do too much. It's just everything slowed down, poor shot selection, poor rebounding, no more passing. Everything kind of started to go away, and Xavier just continued to nail threes on Texas for the rest of the game, and it eventually flipped on the wrong side of the ball for Texas. It's super disappointing to see a season end where you had a couple guys playing well enough. Trey Johnson shot well enough in the game. Tremont Mark shot well enough in the game, but you weren't really able to get a ton out of the rest of the team. Arthur Kaluma only has 8 points, 2 of 6 shooting. Jordan Pope 1 for 4. The bench didn't do a ton. Kendall Weaver played 30 minutes, but it didn't feel like it. there was some weird, and we'll get into Rodney Terry plenty, but there was a weird coaching decision at the end of the half where he had like this really weird lineup with none of the stars in it for like a minute in the end of the game. I don't know why that was. I don't know what he was trying to pull when he did that. And it just all ends up being, not enough in a game that you were the better team. You should have been able to win. And what we said yesterday was, you should be able to walk into these games and win, but if you don't, it's going to fall back onto you. And for what Texas has done all season long, which is anytime they're down, they decide they want to start playing. And anytime they're up, they just feel like, well, of course we're up. We're Texas. We're really good. All of us guys were heavily recruited. We are really good players, and they just would stop playing. And I mean, it's leadership on the bench. It's leadership on the court. It just felt like at a certain point, there was nobody on this team who really, at the end of the day, wanted to win enough to get everybody else involved. I'll leave Kendall Weaver out of that. I bet he did. He just missed most of the season, so I'll leave him out. I love Kendall Weaver still, but a lot of these guys on this team is just really disappointing to see how they play down the stretch.
Yeah, I don't know if that game could have started any better for Texas either. Kendall Weaver was making a huge impact early.
Yeah.
You got the big guy in foul trouble. You got the other guard in foul trouble. The other big player, can't recall his name now, but it started fantastically.
2 on Fremantle and 2 on Conwell pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that gives you a huge advantage early. You take a big lead, and then as we've seen all season, things just kind of started to fall apart very early in the second half. You had 4 turnovers in the first half combined, and I think it was the first 4 minutes or 5 minutes they had 4 turnovers, and then the turnovers just kept mounting, and there was some bad shot selection, and I thought Tremont Mark held onto the ball a few times when he shouldn't have.
Yep.
And you could see Trey Johnson getting pretty frustrated with that as well. I remember there was one time where he was right on Tremont Mark's back calling for the ball, and Tremont Mark basically brushed him off.
Well, and so I can tell you that one was, I believe, that he was being face guarded. He couldn't get open, and he went over, and I think Rodney called for him to get off because they're right over by him, because I don't think Tremont would have ignored him. Like, it just felt like that was hey, this isn't working, and you're basically double teaming Tremont Mark now because you're putting 2 guys right on him. So you have to move. You have to move. And so there was, but yeah, I agree with you. There was just too many plays like that. Yeah, you end up, Xavier, you turn them over early. They only have 7 complete turnovers in the game. Something like that. You're like, you need to see this team continue to pressure on defense. And Xavier's defense picked up, and you once again, you've seen it all season where they call the halves differently. But in the second half, they were able to have active hands, and the refs weren't going to call it as much in the second half. And Texas never adjusted to get active hands as well. Because if they're not going to call it, fine, but you have to then be active on the hands too. They didn't. They still played off. They still tried to make sure no one got in front of them, and they were able to hit threes and not turn the ball over. And there was a lot of pass to win this game. And when it started to come down the stretch, you just went, oh, we're going to lose because nobody on this team is going to take over the game, and no one in this team is going to do anything because Tremont Mark is going to try, but he's not that player. And Trey Johnson's not going to be able to do it. Where it's like, if I'm Rodney and if I'm Trey Johnson, I'm going, I don't care. You give me the ball in backcourt. I don't care where it is. Set me 4 screens. Get me the damn ball. I don't care. I'm the best player here. I'm going to the NBA. None of y'all are playing in the NBA. I will be. Get me the damn ball because I don't want anybody else to shoot it right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you could see that Trey was getting pretty frustrated there, especially in the second part of the second half. It baffles me that he did not get. I know he had 23 points and he was 4-7 from 3, and he played pretty well overall throughout the game. But it just baffles me that he didn't get more opportunities there down the stretch when the game was slipping away. I mean, typically a good basketball team recognizes their strength and their best player, and they get him the ball when they're struggling, and they say, "Okay, get us out of this. You're the guy. You're our best player. You need to take over the game." That never really happened because I don't think Rodney Terry let it happen. I think Tremont Mark is a good player. I thought that the team got better when he was the point guard, and he started guiding the offense. But at the same time, and I think in this game in particular too, there was just too much of it. You can't let that guy be the end all be all of your team and do everything when you have a guy like Trey Johnson on the outside calling for the ball constantly and he's not getting it. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, what would you do, Pat? Like, answer me this. what would you do if you're, if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2012 or whatever, when they have Kevin Durant and he's one of the best players on the planet, and he's calling for the ball, and Russell Westbrook is just driving to the basket every time and missing shots and turning the ball over. I mean, it's ridiculous. It honestly is ridiculous.
It's not even that, it was the threes. It was the threes that kept killing me because he kept trying to just be hero ball. And I'll hit this little pullback three. If you want to drive the paint, go drive the paint. You'll get a foul. You'll get to the bucket. Like, I'm fine with that basketball, because if you miss around the rim, you can maybe get some tough breaks. Maybe they get a good block or something, but they can't rim protect. That team sucked at rim protecting. And you were trying to shoot 3 for 3 with them, and they're a better 3-point shooting team. And this is my biggest problem with that Tramon Mark had. Tramon Mark has a spot. It's a dead on three. He's really good at dead on threes. So he hit one of those early where he hit a straight back three and it's in the middle. And then he kept going further and further, and they kept pushing him further and further to the side, and he misses all of those. So you're like, stop, just go back in the middle. If you're going to do that move, and you're going to do it because you're not trying to drive the basket, you're trying to shoot the three, because I can tell you're trying to do it because you can drive the basket. So if you're going to do that, didn't shoot the three, then go straight on, and you'll shoot, 20-30% better if you shoot straight on. Just things like that. They just felt like nobody knew what their game was. We kept seeing guys not play well together in lineups, which partly is, the injuries and just not having consistent lineups throughout the season. Jordan Pope felt like he really disappeared in this game, where you'd like to see him. And I know he only played 15 minutes, but he was just a very unimpactful 15 minutes. He hit that 1-3, and that was basically his contribution for the game. You can't have a guy have that contribution in 15 minutes. And he's not playing defense, so you keep pulling him off. We also saw Trey Johnson's defensive inability be massively exposed. The last 2 games of the season, Tennessee and Xavier said, whoever's on Trey shoots. He's not going to guard you. I mean, Trey Johnson's hands went up maybe 3 times in the game. He just didn't put his hands up. And I get that there's people out there that say, well, you should have benched him. Cool, bench him. And then you'd be mad because Trey Johnson can play 8 minutes a game.
Yeah. And then how are you going to score?
Yeah. And so I get it. It's just you fell in this rock and a hard place. That was the Rick Pitino piece that he said, I don't know, at some point this season, freshmen don't play defense. So I don't want any more freshmen. So I don't recruit high school anymore. You felt that with Trey Johnson is he just at points did not even try. He would try and stay in front of people, but he didn't want to get into foul trouble. That was the one thing. He really doesn't want to get in foul trouble. He wants to stay on the court. So he doesn't play hard defense. And it was frustrating because teams just now attacked him throughout this, and you just kept seeing that. You kept seeing them understand what Texas was, and there wasn't enough weapons and enough different attacks of Texas that it was really easy to start planning on face guard Trey Johnson, make Tramon Mark shoot threes, and you're good. Because at this point, everything kind of going to fall into that. If you let him bounce off and go take that shot, he'll go ahead and do that. I think that you can make those moves.
Yeah, and I think that one thing too that's just was plain as day to me is that you saw the coaching difference between Sean Miller and Rodney Terry. There was just a different level there. Sean Miller made adjustments. He got his team in a good position in the second half to take advantage of what Texas was doing. And then Rodney Terry just did not have his team ready to come out in the second half. Things fell apart. And there was just such a gap there in the coaching that it was so blatantly obvious. And one play that just absolutely baffled me in this game was when Onyema had the ball on the block in the second half at one point with like probably 10 to 12 seconds left on the shot clock. And he just started dribbling the ball and tried to make a move at the post and airballed it. And I was like, oh, this game's over.
Yeah, it was.
Like, this is the kind of stuff they're going to do. This game's over.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be interesting to hear the stories that come out of this season afterwards, because I mean, it really felt like at points this season there was Trey Johnson and there was the rest of the team, and it just felt like it never really clicked between Trey and the rest of the team. And there would be games where it's basketball and you're on the court, and when things start clicking and he's hitting guys and he's passing, then all of a sudden it works and Texas is a good team. But for the most part, you saw either Tramon Mark playing with everybody else or Trey Johnson playing kind of by himself. Maybe he guys, but it was never a team with everybody into it. And, it goes into you had too many ball dominant guys on the team that thought it should have been their team. And I just don't, I mean, and it goes back to coaching. It goes back to players. It goes back to roster management. All of those pieces just were not there for Texas this year. You get a really disappointing knockout. And now it leaves you Texas and the question of what's next for Texas. And I'm pretty disappointed that that the whole general manager thing is not being a problem. Like it annoys me to this day because, if you're gonna run it back next year and that's who's still putting together the roster, then I don't have a ton of hope because those guys clearly are scouting, like they're scouting UTEP and UT Doubt like that. That's what they're scouting. They're scouting those players, and then they're just going, "Well, everybody else is really good." They're not scouting well. We've seen that. We've seen they've put together a team that's not there. Now I understand why you wouldn't necessarily want to make a move right here. And it's funny because the immediate report was he's fired. I don't even know if he's going to get off the plane. And then that backed off a little bit when CDC doesn't like to hire or fire a coach until he has the next one. You don't necessarily want to have that long break where everybody leaves, everyone makes a decision that where they're going to go and what their future is before you can sell them on what the future is. And now with the transfer portal opening on Monday, you have a very slim period to do that. And it'll be interesting to see what CDC does basically tomorrow through Saturday. Tomorrow and Saturday. If there's any movement, if we hear anything more. But yeah, Kirk Bowles did report today that maybe not. And I think it comes back down to money. Again, where you look at it and you say, are there coaches that really want to come to Texas when you fire a coach after 2.5 years? They don't feel the money's going to be there. They don't feel that they may have the resources for it. It's going to be the second sport. I think all those pieces, maybe CDC got a little backlash on some of these coaches he thought would have been a lot closer to getting, that they maybe got a call back and said, no, he's not talking. And so when you knock out your first 4 or 5 phone calls that at the top of your list and all are no's, that either the person said, like, whether you call Bill Self and Bill Self, they go, are you crazy? He's not leaving Kansas. No. He said flat out no. If you get that phone call, then maybe you start to push back a little bit and go, guys, we don't want to spend $30 million to be a tournament team every year. And that's where we're headed right now. If we hire the wrong coach, is the same thing we've been at. So we have to make a home run hire. I get why you could worry about it, but it also feels like it's just going to be hard to run it back again with what you got. I know Kendall Weaver back, Devin Pryor, maybe a Nick Cody, maybe a Vincent, but probably at least 2 of those guys are going to be gone. It's hard to feel like you're just going to run it back.
Yeah. So here's my take on the whole situation from a journalist perspective and just my kind of analysis of the whole thing. I think that Chip was the first one to report that Terry was probably gone after the game. I trust Chip's reporting as much as I trust anybody else on the Texas beat by a million %. So I do believe that's true. What I think probably happened is Chip reported that, and CDC probably got a little bit maybe upset or something that it got leaked. So he started putting things out there like, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll he tried to sort of throw some water on the situation. And I think that probably what the deal is that, at least in my opinion, Sean Miller is probably their guy that they're looking at the hardest. Right. So and it put them in kind of a quandary because it's like, okay, well, Sean is still playing games and he just beat the guy that we're firing. So we need to wait for him to lose before we can go in and make the move, because you're right. You don't want to fire someone before you have your next guy. And I think that's why CDC probably threw something out there with like, hey, maybe we're not so sure because we don't know what we have out there and all that kind of stuff. And they're just probably hoping that Xavier loses before Monday and they can make a move. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think that based on what Chip said and the way that I read it, that this is probably a done deal and they're just waiting for the right opportunity to make it official. as opposed to, maybe Rodney's coming back, maybe we're going to run it back and all this stuff. And when it comes down to the GM thing, I think once Rodney goes, the whole staff is gone. Ogden's gone, everybody else is gone.
Yeah.
And that's when they hire the GM. And look, we're going to talk about potential candidates and all that stuff on, here in a little bit, but I can tell you this, if Sean Miller is indeed the guy that they're looking at, I think it could be really good because he's proven that he can win without NIL, because Xavier does not have good NIL. And he can get a team with no NIL to the tournament. I mean, it's true. They don't have the same kind of NIL money that a lot
I get
of these
that,
schools have.
but we can say Sean Miller also did pay players before when he wanted Arizona.
Oh, absolutely. He paid he wanted to pay DeAndre Ayton $100,000. He got caught by the FBI.
I mean, so
allegedly,
when we say he doesn't pay players, he pays players. He just doesn't have the same NIL resources as Texas, which, by the way, I will just go on the record. Those are greatly over-exaggerated for what basketball is. Just over-exaggerated greatly by what Texas gets versus what some other schools get. They get money, but I can tell you roster construction-wise that this roster does not cost as much as several teams in the tournament.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing for me, too, is I think, honestly, if you just transplanted the coaches with this same roster, Sean Miller wins last night.
I agree with that. I'm curious to see, though. Let's see him against Illinois, because this is where it falls in the conversation. Everyone's really high on Sean Miller because he beat Texas. If Sean Miller then loses in the first round next year, is there still that hype? Like, man, that's the guy. That's the guy. He cheated at Arizona and never made it to a Final Four, but that's the guy. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I think Sean Miller's a really good coach. I think when you look at all the options, he's probably one of the better options that may be available. But I will say, he's another guy that I don't know if he's a national championship head coach. I don't know that. He's closer than a lot of these other guys are. I will set expectations lower because I think we should set expectations lower for Texas basketball overall.
Oh, sure.
But no, and I'm not. If Sean Miller gets hired, I won't be upset with that hire at all. I will say it's crazy to get fired for a guy that you're 1-1 against in the tournament. I think that's still crazy. I get why you're firing Rodney Terry. I fully understand it. All of it. I more hate the narrative around it because I've had too many discussions with people that keep telling me Rodney Terry is the worst coach that's ever existed. And then I ask them why, and they go, because I read it or because I heard it. And the reality is a lot of reporters did not like Rodney Terry, and that's the reason why he's hated. And so it is what it is. He's not a great coach, but he's not a bad coach. And he did a lot of good things with Texas. So I get it. I don't think he's going to be the coach next year either. And I'm okay with Sean Miller, but I also it's not necessarily my number one hire. He'd probably be like my number 3 or 4.
Yeah, but I don't think Rodney Terry is a bad coach either. I just think Sean Miller is a better coach.
Yeah, I get that. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's hugely. I don't think it's as big as people would make it out to be. I think I think he's a better coach, but yeah.
And I think that there's also those reports that Sean Miller was the guy that CDC wanted when they actually ended up hiring Rodney Terry, and maybe he regrets that decision, and that's why this whole thing has gone the way it's gone, because he never was sold on Rodney Terry, and they never really gave him the opportunities that he needed to succeed. 100%. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
no, they never want to hire him. They did not.
Yeah, if CDC was so sold on Sean Miller back then, and like maybe he regrets it and he wants a second shot at that, maybe that's why he's being talked about as the one of the top options. I mean, it could be, there's other guys they could bring in. I mean, we have a hot board up on my site right now, and there's hot boards up all over the internet right now that list a lot of the same people. But it's just a matter of, okay, are you going to actually go do it? Are you going to find a guy that can take you to the next level? Because they have not done that since they had Rick Barnes. They tried to do it with Chris Beard. It didn't work out for obvious reasons. They tried it with Shaka Smart. He couldn't handle it, and it didn't work out. Rodney Terry was a disaster too, to a certain degree. I mean, it at least in their view, I guess. And then, now they have their 4th opportunity here, and we'll see if they actually do something to change things. It's just, based on what they've done with the last 3 hires, I mean, I still think that Chris Beard would have been successful at Texas if all that stuff hadn't happened. Maybe he wouldn't have been as successful as everybody thinks he would have been because, like you've said before, he was ahead of the curve on the transfer portal, and maybe things have caught up there and all that. But it's just, I would be very interested to see where Texas is right now if Chris Beard was still the coach instead of Rodney Terry.
Yeah, no, we've been better than SEC. 100%. We've probably been a better team. I think he's a better team builder. But this is my main issue with all this, and this is just personal belief that defensive coaches with zero offensive acumen will never win titles. And that's not Sean Miller. But that's Chris Beard. Chris Beard has zero offensive acumen whatsoever. He is a defensive head coach who does not care about offense. He says players will play, they'll score points. And I just don't think coaches like that win titles. I think you have to be an all-around coach. I think Chris Beard is one-sided. So he's hired coaches around him to try and fix that and fill that hole. I just don't ever see it happening. His teams just have way too many problems scoring the ball. So, and by the way, I also don't have a lot of love for a guy that left Texas high and dry and chose a woman over Texas. But that's me. He could have kept his job, but he didn't.
I don't think you're wrong about that either. I totally agree with that.
And by the way, I think he's fine with Texas suffering. I think he's completely fine with it because he's pissed that he got fired. So all those things, he's not a friend of mine. I didn't know the guy. I liked him when he was our coach, but afterwards, I think he's been a pain to Texas more than a help. So, I'm not going to support him or go with any of that. Over on the chat line again, we get Roy that says, I have Weaver fever. I hope he doesn't leave. I agree. I love watching Kendall Weaver play. There's other guys like that. I'll get to say, but there's a lot of guys that like Kendall Weaver, but he is just it's so fun to watch him play. We just skying up for rebounds. Love it. We also see USGU says, do we know why Sean Miller is preferred over Will Wade? I can tell you why, because Will Wade is not one at a Power 4 level. Will Wade is a really, really good coach at a lower level, but he doesn't have experience winning at a high level. When he was at LSU, they won because he cheated, and then as soon as they stopped cheating, he lost and was fired.
Yeah, and he already got a new job.
And he got a new job. But I'm just saying of why, if you would look at the two coaches, that's the reason, is Will Wade has not won. Again, roster construction between, it's the thing. If you look at right now McNeese State, that's a team of Kendall Weavers. There's a team of them, which is great, and they're so fun to watch. But when you start to play better and better talent, that, only goes so far. And so he's been really good at constructing those teams and making the guys play at their highest level. But then at a certain point, it starts to fall back out again. I know there's people that love Will Wade. I know there's people that have personal connections to him that are really pushing for him to be at Texas. I never saw that as big of a, with a scandal and then just a really bad track record at LSU. They just weren't good when they didn't pay players. I get everyone's paying players. I get everybody cheats again. But it was before NIL when I'm saying paying players. But he wasn't, and maybe the second time around, he'll be better at NC State. He'll be in a bad conference. So, I mean, you're rip raring ready to go at NC State. There's opportunities there.
It's so bizarre to me that the ACC is so bad now. It used to be the conference of college basketball, and now it's just it's Duke, and
I think it's because there's certain teams that are recruiting everybody there, and they're recruiting area. They're just getting everybody, and everybody else doesn't have the NIL resources to compete with the Duke or North Carolina. So you're like, well, why are we spending? I mean, the one that still kills me is Rutgers. Rutgers this year is the most. They have 2 top 5 picks on that team, and they didn't make the tournament.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is a mind bug. So as much as everybody gets mad, look at Rutgers this season, and the reality was they didn't have the NIL. If you had what Rutgers had in those 2 players and Texas resources, they would have been a lot better. But they basically had no other NIL, and so every other player there is just playing, and so the rest of the team around them, no one played defense, and it ends up killing you. But yeah, that ACC this season has been crazy. And so it's hard. It's there's just not a ton of great coaches out there. Sean Miller is a really good coach. He's been to the Elite 8 3 times over at Arizona. So he was able to show it, and basically everything went down at Arizona where, they're blue blood, they're pushing it, and there was some things the Pac-10 would be down or back up or whatever else. He was never able to get through the edge, and that's when, they start really trying to get some of these top guys and, DeAndre Ayton, who they think could get them through. and push through to get that level to make it through. Once that happens, it's basically over. He doesn't have the success anymore at Arizona. They show cause, sanctions, all that. He's gone. He goes back to Xavier. They lost in the first round of the NIT last year, but rebuilt that program up into what it is now. Got a lot of shooters. Got some guys in there that can be able to score the ball. So I'm not I don't dislike Sean Miller. It's one of those ones. I think if it just all feels like this, we've been through a 2.5-year cycle of pretending that Rodney Terry's a bad coach just so we can get back to what we wanted to do at the beginning, that Rodney Terry was a better coach than he should have been. It just sucks because it's all this thing that there was a plan in line, and it feels like for 2.5 years now, there's been no reason to do it because it didn't matter. Because now when we don't make it out of the first weekend for the next 2 seasons, is everybody immediately going to be mad again? Or are we going to go, no, we're building somewhere? And so it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating is all it is.
Sure.
And so now we look though, Sean Miller, I'm with you. I can understand where you say they're kind of waiting, and you never know if Sean Miller makes a run. Does he say, screw it, I'm not leaving? I don't want to go to Tech. Like, I think there's points of where some people just say, I don't want to go there because I know what it's going to be. And I don't necessarily want to, I can wait another year and I can go somewhere better.
Yeah. And I also think that it's kind of the Scott Drew situation where, why would he leave somewhere where he runs the town and he's the biggest thing there to go to Texas where he's going to be number 2 to see at best to Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
And he's not going to have this.
He's winning.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's why I say number 2 at best. And is he going to have the same resources that he has at Baylor? Because they put everything into that basketball program. And, Sean Miller, for what Xavier is, there's a reason they brought him back. It's because he runs that place. Xavier is his baby. He's the biggest thing there. So when it comes down to it, does he want to leave that situation to go to a Texas? I mean, if he wants to make some more money, I'm sure Texas could pay him more than Xavier would.
Yeah.
But, that would be a big investment. And maybe they don't want to do that. I don't know.
And you also got to remember, I think when you're having these discussions now, there's a part of it too of, okay, but what is my budget every year? What do I get for NIL? So we're not talking about what my contract is and wherever else. I need to know what my salary cap is, because I have to know what I'm walking into, because I don't want to walk in thinking, man, Texas has more money than God. I'm getting 25 to 30 a year and I'm getting 12, because now that completely changes the job for me, because now I'm trying to recruit where now every agent I'm talking to and every student thinks we have more money than God, but I have to go back to them and go, well, I don't, so I can't pay you that.
Yeah. And look, Texas has to make a decision. Are they going to really invest in men's basketball and try to take it over the top? That's the bottom line. If they don't decide that they're going to really invest in the program to put it at the next level and give them the NIL money and give them the resources and hire the right people and hire the GM and do all those things, then it doesn't matter who you hire, because they're not going to be able to put a team together necessarily that's going to be able to compete with a blue blood, like even UCLA at this point, or Kentucky, or any of these schools who they're basketball schools, and the basketball programs get the money they want and they can go out and get the guys that they want. I mean, even Texas Tech does it. Do you think Grant McCaslin's a better coach than Rodney Terry? I mean, maybe, but it's like, there shouldn't be a reason that he's more successful at Texas Tech than Rodney Terry is at Texas.
JT Toppin should have been at Texas. He should have been. The money should have come up, but I mean, it's an easy negotiator in Lubbock. He's going to Texas if you don't pay me. Well, shit, we'll pay you. Are you kidding me? We get to steal a player from Texas? Of course we'll pay you. And it felt like they had a lot of money tied up between Trey Johnson and other players that they weren't able to do that. And you end up with Arthur Kaluma, who's a good player, but he's not the same type of player. And I think you're probably paid Arthur Kaluma enough money that you, at the end of the day, would have liked to go with the first one. But that goes back to the reason why Rodney's probably not coming back no matter what. Is part of that is, there's people, the people with money don't want him. And so if you're continuing to ask for the money for NIL and all this other stuff, and they're saying we're done with him, it makes it really hard. And so the question is, are there people that are the biggest donors and where are they at? Because if you're losing $50,000 from somebody, that's manageable. If you're losing 20 million or 10 million a year that's going to all these programs, that becomes a real big problem. And so, or when somebody says, I'm still donating 15, but I don't want any of it to go to men's basketball, that becomes a bigger problem. So I feel like that is kind of, that's where you have to sit and say, it's just a crappy situation all around. That it was that RT got the interim job, and if they hadn't given it to him, none of this would have happened, because they would have, we wouldn't have gone to the Elite Eight. We wouldn't have had those issues, and you weren't able to be there. Longer Bear says we were back unless he transferred. Yeah, and that's the question. If he doesn't, Weaver came in to play for a coach. Rodney could really sell those smaller school guys. Can Sean Miller or whoever comes in sell those guys in what their vision is? Maybe they can, but you have to make that move and quick. By the way, Clemson trying to hang on here with a minute 37. They fought it back to single digits. So Clemson was trying. They're trying to fight back in this. You're just too big of a hole, most likely, but fighting back to that one. Patrick says Bill Self to Texas. Bill Self ain't coming.
Well, okay, hold on. I don't want to rule out anything because I believe in CDC and what he can do.
Yeah.
And Chip reported that Bill Self has always been fascinated by the Texas job. So I don't think that should necessarily be taken lightly. Now, I don't think that they're going to hire Bill Self. I'm not going out on a limb and saying that, but just the fact that he's quote unquote fascinated with the job is interesting to me. I think that they at least have to give him a call, right?
Oh no, I think you give him a call. I'm for sure you give him a call. I don't think he's coming.
I don't think he is either. But like, if you're gonna make this move and it's gonna leak out that you're gonna fire Rodney Terry, you better go balls to the wall and try and get the biggest hire you possibly can.
I think you should call Bill Self. He's on my list of guys that we talk about. I fully get it. I think you call that guy 100%. I think you call basically everybody you can call and say, what's the interest level? Is there any? But I think Bill Self goes, I need $30 million a year in NIL. I need a $10 million a year contract. I want to be able to run this. I need this, and this. Are you giving me all that? At least to start the negotiation. Texas goes, no, we're not spending $50 million a year on college on men's basketball. We're just not. He goes, okay, Kansas will. And if they won't, they'll still spend a bunch. And I know what I have here. It's a known commodity here versus there where I don't know. So I don't think he's going. The mod, I'll tell you, no, I'm still right. 16 seeds will not. They're watch them play tomorrow. They're not as good. They're just two 16 seeds playing each other. I watched it. They weren't great. I watched.
We already saw what Auburn did today. So
yeah. No, they're offensively they look pretty good, but they were playing against other teams that were completely terrible at defense. Yeah, those teams would have lost by 40 to Texas. Like it's just not. I mean, in reality, probably 15, but but it was they're not. They just they shot the ball well, but that's what it is. Jeff Gunn says Trey Johnson was the worst thing that happened to this team. Selfish attitude that obviously clashed with coaches and players. That's an RT for allowing him to ruin the team chemistry. I wouldn't say he's the worst thing to happen to Texas, but I do think that there was having a star freshman is really, really, really hard to coach. Rick Barnes talked about it, that he was like, it's just really, really hard to coach. And for Trey Johnson, it didn't click. It never really seemed to click. And, you could put that in, and that could have happened to a lot of different coaches. It is on RT that you're supposed to make this team work no matter what. And, maybe if you had different players around him that, like, I think they got Tremont Mark because of his defense. And Tremont Mark wanted to show off his offense. And that really was something they should have known before they got him. Because he's a really good player. But if he just wanted to play defense and shoot threes, then he would have been an awesome player. Cut or do whatever. But if the fact that he wanted to be a point guard really kind of screwed up a lot of things for Texas in that. So I think there was just a lot where it was just really poor roster construction. Because if you don't have Trey Johnson, you don't make the tournament because you probably lose 2 or 3 more games throughout the season because that guy was the scorer.
I think if you don't have Trey Johnson, you probably win like 14 games.
Yeah. So it's like he was bad, but he was also a complete necessary part of it because you have to have that guy who can score the ball. And I mean, like you look last year, Max Asmus was supposed to be the guy who scored the ball, and he was awful at Texas. just could never get it going against that type of talent defensively, and that he was playing against every week. So I get it. I'm with you, Jeff, that it's I'll go with you, Jeff. It's extremely frustrating that it was never able to click for an entire season.
Yeah. And the Max Asmith thing is just another example of going after these small school guys who put up a bunch of numbers and never play against anybody good. And then you bring them into a power conference and they're just not the same player. So they need to get away from that as soon as they possibly can. I mean, yeah, if you want to, fill out the bottom end of your roster with those kind of guys, like that's great. But you can't go into a season being like, okay, we got 2 guys from Indiana State and we got this guy from over here and we got this guy over here. It's just like, I don't know. I
think
for my money, and
if you get an 8-man rotation of or 7 men who have all played at that level, and then fill it out with some other guys and find out the 2 or 3 that can fit into the rest of the rotation, I'm fine with that. But that's again getting 10 guys as opposed to getting 9 and hoping that 8 of them are good. Get 10 to 11 and hope that 8 of them are good enough.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like, my whole problem with the transfer portal is, yes, there are good players who go in because they want a new opportunity, but there's also a lot of guys that go in who are either at smaller schools and they have been playing pretty well at smaller schools and think they can get a bigger deal and maybe have a better chance of getting to the NBA if they go to a bigger school and play well. But a lot of these guys in the transfer portal aren't going back to their original schools because they can't, they're not good enough to be at that school. So why would you think that you can go into the transfer portal and build your roster? And this is especially true in football more so than basketball, because basketball is more all over the place. But I hate the idea of building your entire roster off the transfer portal, because a lot of times it's guys that weren't good enough at another school who are going for a new opportunity. Like, oh, I didn't get the opportunity because my coach didn't know what he was doing, and now I'm going to go to Texas and play well. And I know that you can't, in today's college basketball, just build a team with recruiting anymore. It's just not possible. But it's also just such a crapshoot with this transfer portal stuff that, like, if you're building your entire team off the transfer portal, years like this are going to happen. They're just going to.
No, and that's kind of too, like a guy like Jordan Pope is a guy who's playing on a school where that once the Pac-12 implodes, he has to get out of there, right? Because he's like, I'm not going to be on TV anymore. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to fall completely out of anybody's radar if I stay here. So I have to get off this team because we didn't go to a new conference and everyone else in our conference did. So I get why a guy like that becomes available. But when you see him and you say, well, let's just look at a stat sheet and not the game film and not do the background and not do all those other pieces of scouting and not look at it and go, well, we've already got Trey and we're going to want to have the balls in his hand a lot. And then we got Tramel Mark and he likes to have the ball in his hand some. So we've already got 2 pretty ball dominant guys. We probably shouldn't take a guy who's going to want to have the ball in his hands a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we should take shooters. We just need shooters. And they go, well, he can shoot. And you go, but does he want to be a shooter? And I feel like they took guys that they felt they could form into what they could form into. And those guys showed up and said, I don't want to be what you want me to be. I'm going to play the way I play. And you can say some coaches can deal with that. Some coaches can teach you how to do it. I mean, the reality is if Rodney Terry wanted to sit down everyone who didn't want to play the way he played, we would have seen no one on the court. There's a certain part of it that you can't sit everybody. And so I don't know what you do in a situation when you just put together a bunch of guys who don't want to conform. That's on your roster management. And so, yes, he did a bad job because he's part of the guy putting it together. And yes, he wasn't able to make it work. But if you see a lot of these teams, what they'd like to do is build up teams with lesser talents and that they know will fall into line. And the problem with that is you will never win a championship doing that. And so it's not championship building, it's job keeping. And that's that line where I always worry about coaches that are not trying to win championships. They're trying to keep their job. And so they think Elite 8 is that's as far as we'll ever get, because I'm not building a roster to win a championship because I'm not taking chances. Now, if you're Duke, you can go out and get a top guy every year and have guys behind him, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, kind of to your point, also this so much of this falls on the GM and the guy that's going out there and scouting all these players, because you have to find guys that complement each other. You can't just go out and find all these guys that are like, okay, like you were saying, like, I want the ball in my hands. Well, we have 5 guys that want the ball in their hands. We don't have 3 spot up shooters. We don't have a big man that can protect the paint. We don't have, a guy that can go up and get rebounds. We don't have this guy. We don't have a guy that can go up and set screens for Trey Johnson and get like all these different pieces that are so critical to a team that gels well together. Texas just didn't have those guys. And I think credit to Trey Johnson for being able to lead the SEC in scoring as a freshman with this kind of roster around him. Because had he had a better roster around him, he might. I mean, what do you think he would have done if he had a real point guard and real shooters around him that could space the floor and a real big man to help take the pressure off down low? I mean, it just seems like Trey Johnson's year was a complete waste because they didn't build the right team around him, which is what they should have done in the beginning.
And I agree somewhat, but I also say Texas has done that with basically every superstar they've ever had. Like every NBA superstar that Texas has, they've done this, which should tell you it is just really hard to do. It's not a unique situation. This happens a lot, that it's really hard in college to build that way. And that's why we see teams like Gonzaga and Creighton that are always pretty good. They never have a superstar. They never will. They don't want to. They're never going to win a championship, but they'll always be good. They'll always be really, really good, but they'll never win a championship. And so it's kind of that line in between. Are you willing to go take the chance to be a champion, or do you want to create a culture that is okay with being a Sweet 16 Elite 8 team, and that's your goal? And your goal is never win a title because you're not going to take the chance. And that's where it feels like some people just go, well, no, if he could do that there, he could do it in Texas. But that's not their coaching style. Their coaching style is to not have stars. Now, Sean Miller is not that guy. Sean Miller at Arizona had star players. He went out for him. So he is a guy who will shoot for it. I'm fine with that. Nate Oates is a guy who will go out and try and get that player. We saw what he did with Brandon Miller. He was fine having him on the team. He will take those chances. So there are certain coaches. McNeese State finally does pull it off with a 2-point win over Clemson.
God, that really made me
not
nervous.
the dominating win that you were expecting, but a win nonetheless for McNeese State for how well they were up, for how much they were up in the first half. Not a great second half. So there is all these points in the games where when you're building teams that I understand the concept of consistency is what we really want, but consistency breeds nothing. I don't think Houston will win a championship this year because I don't think Houston is built to win championships. Now, they could prove me wrong. This be either the year they break through, but they're extremely consistent. And consistency is not the key to success in most sports. Normally, you want to have peaks and valleys, and you get better and better. Now, you have dynasties that break those trends, and you have people that are just next level that can break those trends. But for the most part, you're going to have peaks and valleys because you have to take chances to get where you need to be, especially when you're not a blue blood college dynasty, especially when you don't necessarily have the same amount of resources overall that some of the major programs are going to have that are going to compete every year. So you have to take a few chances. They did it this year. It did not work out. I'm okay with making a change. I get you have to make changes sometimes. But this is, again, you have to take a chance. And are you going to go out and try and get somebody that is a little bit more consistent but doesn't necessarily have that flair to take you to the promised land? Or do you want to go try and make a splash and get somebody who will be crazy enough to do it? That's up to CDC right now. Is he able to find the guy to make the splash, or does he just have to make a change and we have to go from there?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. You have to make the investment. If you're firing Rodney Terry, you can't come back with a Grant McCaslin or, one of these other coaches who have been pretty good and they get their team to the tournament and they win a couple games. Like, if you're making this change and you're doing the buyout and you're spending all this money to get rid of a guy, you don't have an excuse. Like if the boosters are like, we're not going to put money into the program because we don't want Rodney Terry anymore. CDC has to go to those guys and be like, all right, tell me, give me the guys that you'll give me the money for. I'll go get that guy. I don't care who it is. I'll go get that guy, but you have to give me the money to do it. And that's the only way this is going to happen. Otherwise, I'm going to bring in another guy that's going to get us to the Sweet 16 maybe, or around to 32. And then that's the year we have, and we're happy with it because we broke even on the budget.
Yeah. And that's what I don't think that CDC wants to be that team. I think CDC wants to be great, but I think he's also a realist. I think he understands what the economy of it is. And so that's where he's sitting. And exactly what you said. I think there's a chance we come out of this and he's going to sell us, guys, we have the sweetest lemonade you've ever had in your life. It is so good. We took those lemons and we made the sweet lemonade. The reality is, come out of it and say, guys, didn't work out. So it's going to be about 3-4 more years. We'll be okay. And if the guy does what he did, then we'll end up with Shaka Smart again, which was not bad, but it wasn't good enough. And it was a guy who couldn't coach at a Texas level. The job overwhelmed him a bit. And like this is a shocking thing I remember, which is 100% Texas. And what you have to understand when you take the Texas job was there was a game for Texas, and they were doing a ceremony of a groundbreaking ceremony. It may have been the Moody Center, but it was something around there, maybe the practice facility, something like that. And they needed Shaka to be there. The groundbreaking was an hour and a half before tip off. That
doesn't seem
ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You tell the head coach of a basketball team with you're going to be out of the building until less than 60 minutes before you tip off. And Shaka was understandably livid that he was being asked to do this. But it's Texas. And it didn't matter about what Shaka's schedule was. It mattered what everybody else's schedule was, because we're making it work because Shaka is not paying what we got. His name's not going to be on the building. So we need him to be there to shake hands with the people who gave us the money to build this. And we need him to be the white face of Texas for this. And that's kind of the piece of what you have to be a coach at Texas, is understand those two sides of that coin. You do get the money. You do get more opportunities and more ability to be able to do things. You do have a nice new building. You have, a program that is working behind you, and there will be a giant staff, probably a bigger staff than anywhere else behind you, not your main coaches, but everyone behind you, huge amount of staff, film staff, everybody else you could ever want, right? But there's going to be some ridiculous things you're going to have to do, because that's how these big budget operations work. And for some people, they don't necessarily want to do that. And especially, this is what you worry about for guys like Bill Self or a guy like Sean Miller, that they can say no. You work around my schedule because I'm the guy here. And when you come to a new school, you lose that. And so it's somewhat hard. Scott Drew is not going to anything an hour before because he doesn't have to. Because he'll just say, no, we move it. We move it to because I'm the guy. And so I think there's guys like that you can go out and find. It's just really, really hard. I don't know who's available right now. And that CDC is working on the phone. And maybe he has somebody and they're still coaching, and that's why everything's completely secret. Maybe it is Sean Miller. Maybe it's someone bigger. Bill Self's still dancing. Nate Oates is still dancing. There's plenty of names that are out there that are on that list that I would be very, very surprised if we got. I think Sean Miller is the most likely answer. It just feels like that's the most likely answer because he's a good enough coach, has a track record, has a long run in Arizona that was successful, won conference championships, went to Elite Eights. So that one makes the most sense. But I'm sure he's calling other people too. And maybe one deal's already done and we just can't say it because they don't want the Will Wade situation.
Yeah. Well, I also think that Texas, when that report came out yesterday or last night, I think Texas might be a little upset because I feel like they lost some leverage. Right? Yeah. So if you're CDC, like when you're making the Jim Schlossnagle deal, you're going to this guy and you're saying, all right, I got this, and this for you. This is going to be the deal. Like we're going to make this sweet. You're going to come here and, you're our guy, whatever. But now when it leaks that your coach is getting fired, the negotiation on the other side is like, hey, you're going to give me what I want right now, or I'm not coming. Because I know you don't have like, I'm the guy, you're talking to me, you're already firing your coach.
Yeah.
You're gonna X, Y, and Z, or I'm not coming. And I also kind of, to your point with the Scott Drew thing, where he's like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that because I'm the guy. Texas CDC wants that alpha guy. That's what Kirk Bowles put that in his report a few days ago. He wants the alpha guy. He never thought that Rodney Terry was the alpha guy, right? So maybe he kind of lets that happen. Maybe he lets a guy come in and kind of run things a different way because he feels like that's what this program needs. I don't know. I mean, it just feels like this whole thing can't be happening. Like, I think CDC is too smart. I don't think this whole thing that could be happening if he didn't have some home run guy ready.
I mean, that may be the case.
Home run guy. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe.
He's going to sell it as a home run. CDC's a good salesman. He'll sell it as a home run.
Oh,
and Joe says this: coaching Texas basketball should be the best job in college basketball. Get the round of 32 yearly, Sweet 16, Elite 8 every 2 to 3 years. It'll never be the best job in college basketball. It just won't be, because you can't. The best job in college basketball could not be at a football school. Just can't be. So I think it won't be.
I think what he means, and this is just my interpretation, is that there's not the pressure there like there is at a Duke or a Kansas to have to get to the Final Four every year. So it should be a sweet gig where, like, even if you have an off year, like, you only make it to the Sweet 16, your job's not in jeopardy. I mean, Rodney Terry made the tournament. He's still getting fired, though. So obviously that's not necessarily the case.
I'll say, I'm on board. He didn't make the tournament this year. I'm on board. I know he did, but he didn't. I didn't make the field of 64. I get it. I get semantics on all this. I need the field of 64 to say we made the tournament. So I'll say I'm a big Rodney Terry supporter, and I will say we didn't make it this year. I get technically we did, but I'll say we didn't. Because we didn't make the field of 64. Our name ain't in the bracket. No one looks at the extra part. That's a side on the piece. It's like Alaska and Hawaii. It's non-contiguous. That the first four. It's over there.
Yeah.
So I'm not counting it. But okay, bad. He says you got it right. So no, it should be plush. But at the same part, do you believe it's a easy job that Rodney Terry lasted 2.5 years? He made it to an Elite Eight, made the tournament all 3 years. I get it's a different story. But you also go, well, if things are changing and they don't like me, it's over.
Mm-hmm. I think that probably the reason this is happening is that CDC never wanted Rodney Terry in the first place. Yeah. So that's why he can make the excuse that, this isn't good enough, we need to make a change. And if it was another coach that he had wanted to get the first time around after Chris Beard, even if they had the same year this year, they might not be making that change.
No, I agree 100%. Like 100%, you're right. That this was the fact that Rodney Terry was not hired as the coach until after he made it to the Elite Eight is still crazy. Because again, that's when you say it's the best job. It's not, because of BS like that. That any other school in the country would have hired him. Well, but like by making the tournament, they probably would have at least given him a 2-year deal or something. Because they would have also not Jerry Jonesed it and had to sign a bigger deal at the end of it. We'd be like, no, here's a 2.5 year, here's a 2-year deal. And if it doesn't work out, we'll move on. But we're not going to have a buyout or anything for you, because we'll give you a couple of years. And he made a really good run. And I mean, it did a lot of really good things for that Texas team that season. And then the roster construction the next 2 years was just pretty poor. And so it's a clear issue that you have to fix. And I still don't think you're keeping RT. Then he says RT inherited a program that Chris Beard, but I don't. Partly. But again, I will tell you this: Sturgeon Rice was not playing when Chris Beard was coach, and Dylan Dessou was not involved in the offense when Chris Beard was coach. And those two guys got us to the Elite Eight. So I know that he took the roster, and he basically then took two guys out of that roster that were not playing and made them really good players. That was what that season was. It was a weird season because of everything that went down. So he had a big piece of it. But I agree, the roster construction the next couple of years, Chris Beard is clearly a better roster builder than Rodney Terry is. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind of that one, that he is a better roster builder. But coaching wise, I think there's different arguments on both sides. Chris Beard's probably a better coach. I just don't think he's an elite coach at all, personally. And I have no love lost for a guy who picked a girl over me. So again, he picked the girl over Texas. So I have no love lost for the guy. But I think if you're looking at Texas, we can go through a couple of the names. Matt, you had him up on Longhorns on SI today. You had a list of some of the names that are thrown out there. Sean Miller being the number one that we keep hearing, that's a name that's been there. It's one that if they lose to Illinois, we may be hearing as soon as Saturday. That may be the name that goes, and it's already done, and it's because it'll happen really, really fast because the transfer portal opens on Monday. So, he'd be in town by Monday to be making phone calls if he is the guy. Another name you threw out there, because we already talked about Sean Miller some, TJ Otzelberger, the guy from Iowa State. He's been to the Sweet 16 twice since he's been to Iowa State. He's one of those coaches that you wonder, can he take it from Iowa State and take it to the next level? He hasn't been at a school the level of Texas. That's one thing Sean Miller has. Arizona is a blue blood basketball school. It's a big school, blue blood basketball. They're more a basketball school. He has that pedigree, and he has done that already. TJ has not. But where do you sit on TJ Otzelberger as a guy? I like his coaching, but I'm not. He's another question mark guy.
So, in my mind, he's one of those guys that I feel like he could turn your program around pretty quickly just because of the way that he coaches and the way that his teams play and his ability to get talent at a place like, Iowa State, where I have a hard time believing they have the same resources as Texas, right? I mean, maybe they do in basketball. I don't know, but it just seems like he's a guy that could turn it around quickly. The risk is, as you mentioned, he's never done it it's like the Shaka Smart thing to me. Whereas like he didn't have, or he's never been in a situation where he's been at a school at the level of Texas. So can he replicate the same kind of success at a big school with that microscope on him? Can he, can you sell the boosters on him to get him the money that he needs to get the players that he wants? Is he going to be able to go out and have the same kind of pull and do all those things? Or is he going to struggle like Shaka Smart did? I mean, I don't think he would. But it's an interesting name because I feel like he's an excellent coach, and his teams play really hard, and they're a 3 seed in the tournament this year at Iowa State. I mean, I don't know how often that's happened, but it's just a risk because it's a lower tier school, and you need to see him do it at a bigger level. And I don't necessarily know that Chris Del Conte wants to go out and hire a guy that doesn't have the blue blood pedigree that we've talked about.
Yeah, and it's always that. If you go coaching at a power, and I mean it's Power 4, but coaching at a Texas is way different than coaching at Iowa State. So he could work out, but it is that question mark, and we always wonder about those question mark guys. Is it because if you don't hit this one out of the park, now it becomes a blemish on CDC that he can't figure out basketball because his big hire was Chris Beard, and that is not working out, and that didn't work out for other reasons, some of which he knew were a possibility before it happened. And then you get Rodney, who you kind of screw all that up just because you don't want it to happen, and you kind of badmouth him behind the scenes, and you don't fight and you don't champion him enough so that when you do hire him, you've already lost your people because you basically said, guys, don't worry, I've got stuff lined up for us. Don't worry, donors and boosters. Don't worry, I've got things lined up for us. So we're not going to keep him. Don't worry about it. And then when you kept him, you have to kind of go back on those words when you're asking for more money. So I think that really kind of it's a bad situation. It's just a frustrating situation. And so now you hire another coach. If you bring him in, and it again is he's not in the Sweet 16 every other year because that's kind of what he's doing at Iowa State. It feels like, well, Texas is now the problem, not him, because he was doing it somewhere else. So it becomes again back on the CDC there. I mean, I'm not upset with, that's another hire that I wouldn't be mad about, but also I'd be very curious about it. And I think you don't want to sign like a 6-year deal with a guy like that. You want to be able to go, if we have to pay more money in a couple of years because you're winning, great. That's what we want to have. But I don't want to have to buy you out because you can't hack it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. It just seems to me like it has to be a guy with the blue blood pedigree. I mean, I don't think that Texas can afford to take the risk of doing the up and coming guy thing, like a Otzelberger or a Grant McCasland or something like that. Even though they're going to be names that are tossed around and all these different reports and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that kind of stuff has to do with agents trying to get their guys' names in there too, you know? So,
oh no, I mean, we saw that with the Alabama job. Sark was never going back to Alabama, but he got a raise for it.
And with the NFL interest with him as well, it's like he was never going to go to the Cowboys.
I mean, as soon as the Alabama job came open, 4 or 5 head coaches got raises like immediately to not go to Alabama. So there is a part where, you know, TJ may say, I don't want that pressure. I'm doing just fine right now, and I'll wait a couple more years, and then I'll go somewhere else. I mean, Iowa State's kept guys before. They kept Matt Campbell well past when they should have, when he should have taken off and had the job. They kept him over there in football. So maybe there's something there that he feels, you know, depending on if he wants to be the fast riser or if he's okay building something and he feels okay with what he's got there. There's a couple names on there that, you know, they feel like the home run hires. If you get one of those guys, you just feel really good. That's Bill Self and Nate Oates. They're not the same guy. They're 2 different coaches, but they both really have a pedigree of being able to win at a big school, being able to win at a school in conferences that focus on football. They're able to come out, and I know Kansas is not focusing, but they focus more on it now than they used to. You know, so I think that both those people, they're just really, really big long shots. I would say, I know that it's reported that Bill Self has an infatuation with the Texas job. I think there'd be part of that. Part of that also maybe that he's like, why would I want to go to the SEC? Are you kidding me? I mean, we own the Big 12 for the most part. Now Houston's here, so we have to deal with Houston. But it's like, as soon as I get another team, we'll be good, and I can, you know, I'll win 25 games a year here with what I can build in Kansas once we get past Hunter Dickinson era, and I'll rebuild what we got. If I go to the SEC, it's going to be hard year in and year out. I may be the 5th, 6th best coach in the SEC. We got to figure that out. So that one I don't know. Nate Oates, his coach in the SEC, knows what it is. Could have the theory. I'm pissed off because Alabama is not giving me the new building. They're not giving me the things that I want right now. So I'm okay walking right over to Texas and shoving it in Bama's face that they didn't do more to keep me, because they can offer me more money, but I need to get more things, because I think Nate Oates is a guy who, again, wants to win a national championship. And he's on that edge where he goes, I need those extra pieces to get that one better recruit, to get that one guy that's going to get me over the edge, and I can get him there. And so I think that's your only hope for either one of those guys. I would say odds are 10% that either one of those has any interest whatsoever coming to Texas, much less they do. But those are your 2 names that will come up the most I've seen of people that are, you know, the long shots, real long shots.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, the fascination with the Texas job with Bill Self is one thing. He's been there for so long at Kansas that you just wonder if Texas is going to be able to put together the kind of package and the promises and the NIL deals and all this kind of stuff that are going to make him want to leave a place where he is the god of that school's athletic department, and he can do whatever he wants and be there. As he has a lifetime contract basically at Kansas. He's going to be there as long as he decides that he wants to be there. Does he want to leave that kind of job security to come to an Austin and potentially not have it work out, and then he's back out on the street with a new, looking for a new job in 3 or 4 years?
Well, and you also got to throw out Bill Self has interest in the NBA. At least, I mean, teams have interest in Bill Self in the NBA. And so is there a chance that he says, if I am leaving Kansas, I'm not freaking recruiting anymore. I'm not dealing with this NIL. Yeah. I built a dynasty at Kansas when we didn't have to deal with all this BS. I'm done with it, and I'm just going to the NBA now. That's a possibility as well. I know the Spurs are the constant rumor with him that every year he's going to be the guy to replace Pop. I don't think that's happening, at least not this year, but that's still a constant rumor. So Bill Self, that's a possibility for where he goes too. I will also throw out he was born in Oklahoma, so he's probably, kind of dumb. There's only I think there's only been one great person ever born from Oklahoma, and that's Darrell Royal. But other than that, I'm going to say nobody else from Oklahoma.
I certainly can't think of very many. And that's kind of the same thing. I keep seeing Billy Donovan's name brought up, and that one's not on our heartboard. And it's kind of the same thing for Billy Donovan. I don't know that he has any interest in coming back to the college game and trying to recruit players and work NIL deals and work with these kids who
and even if
have
he
attitude
does,
problems. And
it's changed so much. Like that change back is not a 1-year thing to figure. Like your roster building next year, and keep in mind, he's also coaching a team right now. Transfer portal opens in 4 days. He's currently coaching a team. So he would have to say, Chicago, it's been real. Get bent. I'm going down to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then within 2 days, be up to speed on NIL and what recruiting is now and all that, and be on the phones working that quick. That seems a bit unrealistic at this point in time. Like, now, if Billy Donovan was unemployed or if Quinn Snyder was unemployed, that makes a little bit more sense. There's still like a month left in that season. They played on mid-April. It's the transfer portal's closed by the time they get hired. So that it's just way too long for either one of those guys for me to feel like they're a real thing, because it's so long. And I think Billy Donovan also, just his relationship with the Bulls, it feels like he's in line for a front office job there at some point. That they've kept him through like 2.5 rebuilds that just keep going. That it feels like at some point they may just like, we really like Billy Donovan, so we're just going to keep him on staff, even though we're going to go a different way of coach. That could be a thing that works out for Billy too. And Quinn Snyder, he's coaching the Hawks. They're playing well enough, even though they've lost like 3 players on their roster. They're still kind of in playoff talk. So I mean, you can't get rid of him right now. Plus, you have to pay him a bunch of money to get rid of him for Atlanta. I don't think they will. Joe asked if we can afford Bill Self. Yeah, I mean, again, Texas has money, but it's not money that they have. So CDC can get the money. And I think Bill Self would probably move the needle enough to get the money. But the question is, can he get the money and then have the money after that to build the roster that you need to have to win? That's really the question, because I think a lot of people will shell out the money to get the guy and then say, well, make $12 million work, make $10 million work now. No, that's not what I signed up for. So they do have the money, though, because there's just really, really rich people in Texas.
Yeah, and you just have to find the people that are going to be excited enough about the hire to make that happen.
Yeah.
And the whole Quinn Snyder thing, too, is just he's another name that keeps popping up. It's another one that I just don't get. Like, he's been in the NBA for how long now?
I mean, for a while. He was
15 years?
It's been, well, how long has been since he's been a college coach? Because he was in Missouri, right?
It's like it's at least 15 years, maybe longer, I think.
Because he was an analyst before, too. Quinn Snyder left Missouri in 2006.
Yeah, so that's almost 20 years ago.
So he's an assistant coach at Duke under Coach K from 95 to 1999. He coached at Missouri from 99 to 2006. And that's it. That's his resume.
Yeah.
I get it. I get he lives in Austin. I get all those pieces. It just doesn't feel like a home run hire, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's one of those things where I don't know how often this has happened. You're probably more of an expert on this than I am. I feel like it's much more likely for a college coach to go to the NBA than it is for an NBA coach to go back down to the college level and deal with all the stuff that you have to deal with and all that. It just doesn't happen very often.
No, normally the reason a coach goes back to college is because he fails spectacularly in the NBA.
Yeah, and that's not going to get people excited in Austin if you hire an NBA coach who just got fired.
Yeah, I mean, but that's Rick Pitino. Like it's those coaches that they just go up and they're like, I cannot coach this level of basketball. And not even this level. I can't coach these players. My whole threatening to withhold things and benching them does not work at this level. And my yelling and screaming is only getting so far. So and when you're trying to develop players and they have their own way, it's just hard. It's a different world. Because again, we talked about how hard it was to coach Trey Johnson this year. It's a team of just Trey Johnsons. Everybody wants the ball. Everybody wants to do it. But it's, and he says Quinn Snyder would be a good hire. Boosters are not going to give CDC money for NIL. No, I mean, why would it be good then? Then it'll just be Quinn Snyder just not doing well for a couple of years. Because, I mean, you can't build a team that's going to compete in the SEC without NIL. You just can't. There's way too many good teams in the SEC right now. Like, it's just not going to be possible to build a team that can compete without NIL. Now, you don't have to spend the most, but you have to spend some money. And if you want to win a bunch, you have to spend more. But I will go back to that list of names where there's a couple NBA names. We mentioned those. And then the last name that keeps coming up is Royale Ivey. Royale Ivey is the coach who we all know deserves a head coaching job. And does he deserve it in the NBA? Does he deserve it in college? Is there a college where is it Texas? Is that too much of a big step for the first job? Do you hire a new guy who's never been a head coach before to be there? I mean, that's tough, especially coming off of what you just had. I think in another situation, I think maybe after Shaka, it's a little bit easier to hire Royale Ivey because you can say, okay, Shaka just never understood Texas and he never really could recruit here. He couldn't do things, but Royale Ivey he's a burnt orange, bleeds burnt orange. This guy can come back and he can be part of it. I think it's a little bit harder to sell that now when he said, well, we hired a guy who this was the biggest job he'd ever done. And we overestimated and he should have never gotten it. And then we're going to do that again, kind of. Now, I know he had the great run in the Olympics. I think Royale Ivey could be a really good coach. I just don't know if the timing works out. And the same thing we've talked about with Rodney Terry is it was just timing. If Rodney Terry gets his job after Rick Barnes, maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe if you move that and they say, well, this assistant we want to bring up is the next coach, maybe that one works a little different than in a situation that was so tumultuous with a coach that was really well liked by a lot of people. And, they wanted a home run hire right after that. If you don't have CDC, who CDC is very much wants to be in the home run hire, if you're not in the NIL era where it does feel like more money should give you more wins at this point, all those pieces, it just didn't work out. But Royale Ivey, I don't know if that works out. Now, if he's hired, I'm all on board to give him a chance. But on the back end of that, I don't know how long he's going to have the donors as well, that if in 2 years, 3 years, we're back in the same spot where he's not producing yet because he's still learning the job on the job. I don't know how long his leash anyone's going to give him because you already dealt where they felt like we're 2 years behind schedule, even though we're not really. We can rebuild this team in a year. But all those pieces, I like it in somewhat, but I don't think it's a home run hire he wants.
No, and I kind of have a problem with the whole hiring of a former player to begin with. I don't think that they have a certain passion for the school and they know how, Texas fans think and all these different things. They understand the culture and all that kind of stuff. I prefer bringing in an outside guy who's going to run things his way, who has, experience winning at another level and not just taking a chance on a guy because he's a Texas guy. Like, I know I bring up Ole Miss on the show.
Royale Ivey's just a Texas guy. Royale Ivey deserves a head coaching job. He did before the Texas talk even came up.
No, I absolutely believe that. I don't think that Texas should be his first head coaching job.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And the mistake that I know I bring up Ole Miss on the show all the time. It's just because that's my best reference point for a lot of these things. But Ole Miss took a chance and hired Matt Luke as their head football coach because he had been a long-time assistant. Everybody thought he deserved a job. He loved Ole Miss. He knew how everything worked over there. And then he came in and he had no idea what he was doing because he'd never been a head coach at an SEC football program before or a power conference before. And then he comes in and he's completely overwhelmed and it's an absolute disaster. And they have to go find a new coach again in 3 or 4 years. And that's just, I'm not saying that's what would happen with Royale Ivey. I think he's a really smart guy. I think he's a great basketball coach. I just think you need to see him put some more skins on the wall before he can come in to be at a place like Texas and take them to the next level. It's like there's the Otzelberger level, right, where he's at technically a power conference and he's having some success. But Royale Ivey's at a place below that right now because he's never been a head coach of a college basketball program.
I'll give you the rebuttal for that, which is real easy, which is John Shire and Hubert Davis, and John Shire especially. John Shire played at Duke, was never a head coach, only coached at Duke, was an assistant there, and he is number 1 seed in the tournament right now.
Yeah,
and so I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm simply saying there is evidence that it has worked. Now, is Royale Ivey that guy? Who knows? And he's not coaching. He wasn't coaching there where he already has pre-built relationships with all the boosters and donors. There are differences. in those things. So 100%, he's also not following in a legendary coach's footsteps where you couldn't really hire anybody else to follow in that. So you take someone within because you go, well, if this doesn't work, at least we'll get a buffer between him and possibly the greatest basketball coach of all time. So we'll spread those out.
Yeah. You never want to be the guy after the guy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I mean, but he's at 1 seat, so it's still working. He's still recruiting really well. And I know Coach K is still there. So it helps too that you still have that guy there. But there is precedent that it has worked for certain situations. But it also helps those are blue bloods.
Yeah.
Because that recruiting in blue bloods is just so much different. Because again, there's not really a lot of kids who grew up wanting to be playing Texas basketball that are the top 10 recruits in the country. And there are a lot for Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina and Maryland and UConn and Virginia and
UCLA,
Arizona. All those schools have teams that USC has some of it too. Like those are schools where people say, that's all I want to do growing up was put on that jersey and play basketball. And I'm a top 10 recruit in the country. I mean, hell, even Trey Johnson, his dream was not to play for Texas, but Rodney Terry coached his dad in college at Baylor. So there is a family connection, and we get Trey Johnson. So it's all like it's just hard to get those top recruits. And as I say, it's the best recruit we got in the last 5-10 years is Trey Johnson, and that guy was because he knew the coach that we're going to fire. That's it. So I mean, that was not necessarily a text thing. Jeff says, if you read the message board for Kansas, a lot of fan bases finally turned on himself and are ready to let him go. He won a title 2 years ago. That is crazy.
Yeah,
he was a national champion 2 years ago. And they're like, no, we can find someone better. That's so crazy to me. How many national championship coaches are available right now in college basketball? 0? The number 0? Yes, it's always 0. So you don't. I get it's Kansas, and it's a great job, and there's probably someone they can find to be a really good coach there. But that is, you don't, like, Bill Self walks away because Bill Self wants to walk away. Now maybe he goes and he's only won 1 game the last 2 years. That's bad. And this year doesn't probably look that much better for him. So 3 years in a row, he'll only win 1 game, and that's not Kansas basketball. They want you to push. They want you to be in the Elite 8, Final 4 every single year. But he won a title 2 years ago. He's a 2021-2022 national champion. And we're like, no. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
This game is so weird now.
I think also kind of to my point on Royal Ivy, though, I understand that there's precedent with John Shire. I don't think Royal Ivy would have that kind of those kinds of resources and all the kinds of things that John Shire has at his disposal. So that is in a bit of its own vacuum right there, right? I just if it's me and I'm trying to turn my basketball program around, I'm not like leaving some legacy of 30 years of elite basketball where I'm winning championships and conference championships and doing all these different things. Like I'm trying to rebuild my program. I don't know that I have the faith to put that in Royal Ivy's hands. It's just kind of a different situation. But look, maybe I'm wrong.
I have to sit down with Royal Ivy and go, who else are you bringing with you?
Right.
That knows what they're doing. Because if you're bringing people with you, that's going to be an assistant or a GM or whoever else that goes, no, I'm going to coach the team, but I have somebody in mind who could be the roster builder and help out with lives. All right, let's talk. But yeah, if he's just walking in and goes, no, I want to bring in my guys and it's all going to be guys who are at the highest job they've ever done, then yeah, because now you talk about a John Shire and you go, he's got a roster builder there. He's got guys around him to help him win every step of the way. And so it makes it a lot easier when you have those things versus what Royal Ivy be walking into. So I think you can make that pitch. I haven't heard his name outside of anyone who's just a fan. I have not heard his name through any insider. I've not heard his name through anybody I know as a number 1 hire. So it feels like that's not going to happen in the next 3 or 4 days. And I think you're probably looking at that for who's going to be hired. Like that will probably be a pretty soon decision. So I don't think it's going to happen. So, but I'm not diametrically opposed, but the same thing I've said about a lot. Hire a GM. You give him a GM or he has an assistant that's a former head coach. I'm much more in line with that. That one makes me sense because it's not just Royal Ivy. It's Royal Ivy and I think that's where you can sit. and say, well, coaching wise, I know what he can do. And coaching wise, I 100% believe in Royal Ivy. It's the rest of it that's a little bit more worrying.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with you. I feel like if they did end up hiring Royal Ivy, it would be a situation where they back themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
Where like it got leaked that they wanted to fire Rodney Terry too soon. The guy that they wanted to go after changed his mind. He decided he didn't want to come. Like Sean Miller is like, hey, I'm going to stay at Xavier or Bill Self. Yeah. I decided I'm going to stay at Kansas, whatever. And now you're like, uh-oh. Well, we're already firing Rodney Terry. I guess we need to go get somebody else. And then that's the kind of situation where it ends up being a Royal Ivy or someone like that. Or maybe they can go get a TJ Otzelberger. But they're in I've said this a few times. They're just in a very precarious situation right now. And now more than ever, because it got leaked that you want to fire him. So,
but I mean, that leak, by the way, that is the most, and I'm not disparaging anybody's reporting. That leak was pretty. Yeah, no, I think we can all read the room here. No, they definitely would like to fire him. Now the report that it's like, oh, it's almost 100% done deal. That's a real report. But yeah, they wanted to fire him. Like, I think we all knew that. I don't know if there's anyone in college basketball who's unaware that he was on a very, very hot seat. I keep checking, just trying to make sure we're not missing any big news about this. It feels like the urgency is there because the transfer will open on Monday.
Yeah, and it for me, it kind of goes back to that picture of CDC after they made the tournament, and he's just sitting there in front of Rodney Terry. Everybody's in the background cheering, and he's like,
it's like, you screwed me again, Rodney. I have all these plans. You screwed me again. Yeah. Oh man. No, I mean, so at this point, if you're a betting man and you're saying this is what I think will be will we go on the now? All right, I'll ask you a couple of different guys. If you're a betting man, what do you think the course of action is? Who do you think is coaching? I would say next. Who do you think is coaching Texas next season?
Sean Miller.
Do you think we'll know if Sean Miller is a coach by Monday? When we go on the air Monday, will we know?
Yes.
All right. So you think Sean Miller will be the head coach by Monday? I'm not. I'd say the odds are probably the best of that right now. The odds are probably your. If we were taking odds, that would be your top. That'd be the top one right there. Is that because it does? And I don't know. It feels like that's a name that I remember hearing back at that time as well. And then it was too. You're like, well, we can't hire Sean Miller if we just beat Sean Miller. Really seems stupid that we're firing this guy who just beat the guy we're hiring. It's kind of a bad sales pitch.
And we'll have beaten him twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a tough run there for CDC if he has to figure this out. I trust CDC. He's done a lot of good jobs in hiring people. We'll keep going with that. Throw in the comments, throw in the chat who you think it'll be, and do you think we're going to get a coach hired at Texas, or if it's going to stay Rodney. I know that Kirk said there was an outside shot he stays. There is, but that's about money. That comes down to we struck out on a lot of people, and it's not worth our money to go pay him out. And like it's going to cost us a lot of money to not be better. And we're going to have to hire a guy that we're probably going to fire in 2 more years, and I don't want to do that. So you could see that. But again, it's probably in that 10% range of a chance, maybe less, that Rodney's back next season at this point. And I think he knows that. I know he's come out a couple times and said it's in God's hands, but I'm guessing he's not leaving any important documents at the training facility right now. You know that, when you know your job, like we're at the end of the horn and it was end days and it was like, don't leave anything here. Take your headphones home every day, man. You don't know. Hey, just make sure to take your stuff when you leave. I feel like Rodney may be in that world right now. He's taking some pictures off the wall. Just, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just, I think I'm gonna replace him with something else. Change up the mood in here. I gotta
just rearranging a little bit. Trying to change the feng shui of my office.
It feels so bad. I like Rodney Terry too. He's a really good guy. So it sucks no matter what. And I'm sure he'll land on his feet because he did have an actually really good record of what he did here at Texas. So he'll land on his feet and end up somewhere because there are a ton of coaching jobs and just not a ton of proven names. But it was never supposed to be him. And it became blatantly obvious that people in power did not want to be the guy. Roy said that Xavier get his neck pillow thorn. I don't remember seeing it, but we moved studios pretty soon after that purge that happened. That sucked. So it's I don't know. I don't remember seeing it. I don't remember saying maybe one of the weekend people or one of the interns stole it. Who knows? Maybe Charles Menahue has it. He was the intern. Maybe he stole it. I don't know. Shout out to Mark there too. Hook him, Mark. I appreciate you joining the show today. Yeah, if you guys have any predictions about that, throw those in. Why don't we take a word from our sponsors here, because we've been going for an hour and a half straight yapping about this. What a surprise! Frustrating on a Friday or Thursday after a Texas loss. So we'll play some commercials real quick. Take a quick break, take a drink of water, throw in there what you guys think. We maybe come back and get to it. If you guys have a couple of comments, we may move on. Todd McShay put out his new mock draft. We go into that. Texas hired another coach. I want to get into that a little bit. Texas football hired another coach. They've been hiring a lot of guys recently. So talk about that a little bit. We'll just talk maybe a little football as well. Whatever you guys want to get into as well, throw those in the chat, throw that in the text line. We'll be back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered.
Hi, I'm Hayden Covert. Welcome to Covert Buick GMC of Bee Cave, your home in the Hill Country for new and pre-owned Buick and GMC vehicles. With beautiful inventory arriving daily, including the GMC Yukon, Sierra 1500, and Buick Enclave, you'll be certain to find the perfect vehicle at an incredible deal. Our service department is also open for all your vehicle maintenance needs. Visit us today for a test drive. Covert, born and raised in Austin. We are professional grade.
Altstadt Beer, the best beer that you can find all throughout the great state of Texas. Y'all know I've been a fan of Altstadt for years now, and if you try it, I think you will be too. If you've already tried it, you know exactly what I am talking about. Altstadt is brewed locally in Fredericksburg, but available all over the state of Texas. So if you're tuned in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, it does not matter. You can find Altstadt at a local grocery store or liquor store. They've got a bunch of different brews, something for every beer drinker out there. The Lager, the Kolsch, those are their two flagship beers, both award winners. They are fantastic. The Altstadt Light sacrifices on calories but does not sacrifice on the taste. They've got great pills, tons of great seasonals as well. I'm telling you, one sip and you won't go back to the other beers you've been drinking in the past. It is the official beer of BK. It should be the official beer of you as well. It's Altstadt Beer. No impurities, no regrets.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. Do you have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Going through all the coaching possibilities. Keep checking my timeline, seeing if anything comes up, if we get anything. He says it was so much more fun last week when we were winning SEC tourney games live on Open Gym. What a difference a week makes. Yes, it does. And it was it's always this. It was the run with the Elite Eight with Rodney, though. A few years ago, there was that run where it was like Rodney's not getting this job. And all season long, everyone's like, this is crazy they haven't hired him. This is crazy they haven't hired him. And what I said, I mean, national people were like that. And then he starts to make the run in the tournament, and he makes the run in March Madness. And you just sat there, we're like, oh man, he's winning it right now. And the team's playing for him because they love him so much, and it's going to be great. And then it's just a bunch of people pissed off in the background. Like, I don't know if you know who runs this, but it ain't y'all. And so it's going to end up poorly for everybody. And that's what it feels like has happened to Texas. And so just disappointing to have an end to the kind of this fun run of what you thought was possible. And now the questions are still out there. You know, we'll get sold it, and, you know, whatever happens, if it is Sean Miller, if it's somebody else who gets sold it, and hopefully it'll be a home run hire. That's the one they keep hearing. And that's the phrasing, though, that I'm like, you got to stop saying that because Sean Miller doesn't feel like a home run hire. It feels like a good hire, but I don't think it's a home run. I think it's like a solid double, right? We feel like this could turn in. You're in scoring position, you're ready to go, but like you're going and standing up. It's a good double, but it doesn't feel like, oh man, we got a guy who's really like this guy has potential to be an all-time elite coach. It's like, no, he's a really good hire, but he has no Final Fours in a lot of years in a blue blood. And it kind of makes you okay. I don't know. Maybe he could be that guy because Rick Barnes didn't. Has done more and it's been really good at Tennessee. So, sometimes you change schools and you get different opportunities and he could be there. But I don't know if it's a home run if you get a guy who has Final Fours or has championship or has something where you go, no, that's a home run. We're rounding the bases right now.
Yeah, I think Bill Self would be a home run.
Yeah, I think Nate Oates is a home run.
Nate Oates is probably a home run. Sean Miller is probably like a ground rule double.
Oh, you think ground rule double? So right over, right close. Yeah,
yeah, real close, but like, it's not quite there yet. I just think that at Texas, the way that everything's working right now, and the way things have kind of gone the last few years and the last couple coaching cycles, it just feels like it's not the kind of place where you're going to get that home run hire in basketball.
No, I agree. I agree with that. So, I mean, we've talked about it, like the fact that we do coaches show with Craig Way and basketball doesn't start till after football's over. And home run hires don't like that because they want to put their guys on the radio. They want to put their guys out there. And if we're going to do it, let's do it. And let's get this where I got my guys out there and I'm trying to let them get a little bit more exposure. And I'm trying to get them NIL deals. And I'm trying to push all these different things happening right now. So it's just, I get it. Now the Moody Center helps because you have a big building, but the problem with the Moody Center on the back end of it is that you don't have it all the time. So some coaches say, wait, so we can't go in the gym and practice? You go, no, we've got a great training facility. They go, we can't go in the gym and practice. They go, no, because we don't own it. We can only rent it out for certain days. So we only have it for so many days. So there is a positive with it that when you play the games, the environment is awesome. And thank Chris Beard for that because he helped build the corral and all that. So the Moody Center is awesome to play in, but it's not the fog. It's not that. It doesn't have that kind of thing. And that building is 100% theirs that they can use whenever they want. So there's just different, pluses and minuses to it. And it's Texas. You're constantly under scrutiny. And if you just have a good season, like you have a, Sweet 16 season, but you maybe lose in the second round of the SEC tournament and you lose in the Sweet 16, got to get blown out by a team you felt like you should have beat. It's like, that's a failure in people's eyes, even though you're like, that's not a failure. We did good. But unless you're overachieving, it feels like you're underachieving just because of pressure of what comes around you here. It's just a weird position that a lot of people can't handle. And so you want to be able to get a guy who can handle that. Sean Miller feels like a guy who can handle that because he was at Arizona. And that is the basketball school.
Yeah, I think Sean Miller could handle everything very well. And that's what kind of brings me back to, Royale Ivy or TJ Otzelberger or Grant McCasland or any of these other guys that are not one of these championship, or blue blood pedigree coaches or something like that, is I don't know that they can handle all the stuff that goes along with this job, even though it's not the number one job on campus. It still comes with a lot of eyeballs and a lot of scrutiny and a lot of guys on message boards yelling for your firing after your first loss of the season and that kind of deal. I mean,
what are we doing?
I know it's like, and that's why I have so much respect for Sark, because he had nothing working in his way. Like nobody, I feel like none of the fans or a very big portion of the fan base was not like, they were like, huh? Like this guy did this and this guy did that. And then he just comes in and takes it all in stride and takes control and he deals with all of it extremely well. I mean, the odds of that happening with another basketball coach or with a basketball coach are very slim to me. You got to bring in a guy who's used to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
no, I mean, you just look at the fact of, and I know not everybody, but like if I go on YouTube, I'll have, because I will watch film on other and watch highlights and stuff. They don't be like, oh, you like Texas sports and you like basketball. So I'm going to click on, and I'll have 10 things telling me that Rodney Terry is the worst coach. And I'm like, I didn't ask for it, but it's going to be on there. And I'm like, if Rodney Terry has searches like this and he goes on YouTube, that's part of the job. Is you just go on. You're like, there's so many different outlets that cover Texas here. And so you're just everywhere you kind of look, there's going to be something that may be super critical of you, and it's going to be labeled in a way that makes you feel worse about yourself. Like, so Sark will have to turn it on and be like, is Sark the worst play caller or second worst? And you're like, well, he's not either. But, and once you listen to the thing, they're not saying that, but they're just trying to get clicks. So,
yeah,
you know, it's very hard to be able to do it at a school with this many people around it. But, you know, at the same part, you know, Rodney's done a good job of kind of, you know, pushing that out, but it feels like it's caught up to him at this point, and now it's time to move on. And, you know, it's sad to say, but, you know, that I don't see a world in which Rodney's the coach next year. And how awkward is that? I was there the day that Chris Beard got arrested in that game that was that night, and that was very awkward. I feel like it would be way more awkward game 1 of next season when everybody walks out like, Rodney, hey buddy. That was the other guys. No, that was them. They're gone. They left. Yeah. We love you. Feels awkward.
Yeah. Or it's like it makes me think of that, you know, there's always that guy on the message board, like, Texas is undefeated. They're ranked number 4 in the country or whatever, or number 1 in the country. They lose to Georgia. Fire Sark. He's the worst. Fire him. He's terrible. And then they go to the SEC championship, and that guy's in the stands going, yeah, Sark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
best play call I've ever seen.
No, I process these things quicker now because I have to, because I take things too seriously at points. So I've gotten better about processing things quicker. But in the moment, yeah, you see, you know, a play goes wrong, and you're like, that kid should never be allowed to touch a basketball again. Like, I don't know why he's on the, like, I would strip him of his jersey right now and say, walk through the crowd. You don't even go through the tunnel anymore. And that feels like an overreaction. But I can get through that a little bit quicker.
That's how I always felt about Dwight Powell with the Mavericks.
That's how everyone feels about Dwight Powell.
Yeah. That guy's good at one thing, and that's getting hit in the face. Like, that guy gets hit in the face more than anybody in the NBA I've ever seen.
Shout out Hardball Harge for a hatred of Dwight Powell. We talked about that plenty. Yeah, have you ever seen the video of him faking hitting his head on a doorway? It's the most Dwight Powell thing, because when you watch it, you're like, oh my God, Dwight Powell just careened his head off this wall, because he's like hopping through, and then there's a doorway, and he just looks like he goes up and just smacks his head jumping through it. And then you realize he was faking it and like put his hand up and hit his hand onto it. And so you see that he did it, and then you're like, that's also a very Dwight Powell thing to do. Like, these are both very Dwight Powell things to do, and I don't like either one of them. But I'm with you on that. Roy says, who are the big money donors, and can any of you TSU guys get a clue from them? But they don't. So the big money donors aren't the ones you need to be involved with. It's the Board of Regents. The Board of Regents is where you get the real ones, because they're the ones that get the phone call to approve the contracts. So all these other ones get phone calls about some other stuff. It's the Board of Regents. When you get those, that's the Board of Regents is apparently the ones who leaked that Nick Saban was coming. And Nick Saban said he wasn't because he didn't want to take Mac's job. And that fell through. And that all stuff, that everything I've heard is somewhat of a true story, that Nick Saban was willing to come to Texas back in the day to replace Mac Brown. But that's all. But that was Board of Regents. So that's who you have to have the end. I don't know any of the Board of Regents personally, so I cannot call them up and say, have you gotten a phone call yet? Have you had the secret clandestine meeting yet? Where you guys have to get together and approve the budget to get the contract, and then CDC walks in and goes, do I have approval to do this? Here's a donor that's willing to pay for it all. But you have to go through the channels because the school is paying, not the donor. So there's enough people that are in the know before then. But they're usually pretty good at keeping it close to the vest. And again, all this is going to happen really, really quick. Like, it's all kind of in the air, and then it'll all be done. And we're only on for 2 hours. It will probably not happen within 2 hours that we're on the air. Maybe it will. Be great. If it happened like 4:01 yet tomorrow, that'd be great. Let's talk about the whole time. But we have no research. I'll hire some random person like, I have no idea. No research.
You know, my favorite guy in the coaching search sphere is the guy who gets on Twitter. He's like, look at the flight tracker. There's somebody flying from Cincinnati or from Lawrence, Kansas to Austin. It's definitely Bill Self. Like that. That's the kind of stuff that's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, CDC was seen at a Chuck E. Cheese in Huntsville, Alabama. It's clearly we're getting NATO's. We see that. I did see. So get this. This will be the segue. My Facebook algorithm picked up, and I don't know what it heard or what it put in there, but I saw a post from Matt Moran, the new special teams assistant who is coming in, looking for a place to live here in Austin. It's like in some group where he's like, I'm a football coach that's moving to Austin for a job. Like, hey, wait a minute. I know who that is.
That's so humble. It's like,
but he's a young guy.
Yeah. It's like, well, I think that, CDC could probably help you out. Maybe.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's I don't know if the assistants get a open line to CDC. Maybe an email you're waiting for a response.
just text Sark and be like, hey, can you get CDC to give me some apartment recommendations, please?
Yeah. Hey, where do the other coaches live? It was just funny because it was like I just saw a Facebook post of it. I was like, he's like football. And then I checked the comments and it's like a couple people asking about comments. And then it was like, hook 'em. Come on, Texas. And then some people from, I believe, I can't remember what school he came from off the top of my head, but they're from there. And JMU. And they were like, James Madison's the best. And you're like, okay. So he saw a couple of those. Some people found it. I was not looking for it. It just popped into my algorithm. It's like a thing. And I was like, why are you showing me this? I don't have a room for rent. We're good. He's not coming to live with me. But speaking of a new football coach for Texas, they continue bringing in some guys. And they have now brought in Kerry Joseph, someone they clearly wanted to have for a long time, but couldn't do it with Terry Joseph on the staff. So now they have Kerry Joseph. The Terry Joseph wannabe. From Louisiana, Kerry Joseph. So he raises those ties a little bit more with the schools in Louisiana that you want to keep pushing in the SEC. Worked for the Bears last season as a quarterback coach, but since they have moved on from that coaching staff, he was out of a job after that season. Before that, I think this is probably the tie to Sark and where he gets the recommendation to come in, is he was with Seattle for the last from 2020 to 2024. So from 2020 to 2023, he was with Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that would probably be your recommendation, is he was looking for a job, and Pete Carroll may have told Sark that this is a really good guy to work with your quarterbacks. I think this probably falls into somewhat of a world of, this is either a guy to go help you recruit and maybe get you some other quarterbacks, and maybe somebody that, they can go work with, talk to these quarterbacks and really get one-on-one with them. It's someone to help while you have other guys out recruiting to help you run drills. But it seems like it's another decent hire. You're able to get an NFL guy to come in. The ties to Pete Carroll, that's a Sark mentor from the USC days. So he has been around a good coaching staff. He's part of that turnaround for Geno Smith that we saw, where Geno, and now he wasn't the quarterback's coach, but the assistant quarterback's coach in Seattle. But he's got, it's another good piece to add. And it's, as long as Texas keeps being able to find guys like this, that they just keep adding that staff, it helps with recruiting. It helps with, making sure that everyone is getting developed. As you're spending all this time with Arch Manning, maybe you have a guy like Kerry Joseph help work out with some of the other guys behind the line and say, we got to, we need to make sure we have our backups ready to go too. It just helps to have more guys out there. I'm happy they're continuing to build this staff.
Yeah, it's just another support guy to help Sark and AJ Milwee and the rest of that offensive staff with the quarterbacks. It helps you with guys, like a Trey Owens or KJ Lacey, those guys that aren't going to be able to work with the first team very often. They're going to get a little bit of extra attention from this guy, but it also helps you in recruiting in the sense that, now you can kind of sell these guys even a little bit more on like, hey, we're getting NFL guys in this staff that can develop you for the next level. And here's another example of that. This guy's worked with Pete Carroll. He coached for the Bears. He coached Caleb Williams, and he did all these different things. So I think it's good for them in that sense. Look, they just keep adding more support to this staff. They keep, there was the tight ends coach whose name escapes me, who I've never been able to pronounce for some reason.
McAdoo.
Yeah, McIndoe, or yeah. There's him. There's the extra. There's Matt Moran. Now there's this guy coming in. I'm sure this might not even be the last one. We don't know yet, because it just seems like they keep adding him.
And they could, and I mean, and most of these people actually end up being analysts, because that's kind of the roles where you just end up, that's kind of your backup. But this is also part of when you have attrition in coaching, and every year people are going to come and try and take away our coaches. The more guys we can have on staff that know what we do, that are kind of coaching the waiting. We'll see how they interact with the players. We'll see how they recruit. We can give job interviews, basically year-long job interviews, to a bunch of guys. And that's what you see with these guys is, let's give Kerry Joseph a year-long job interview and see what he does with us, see what his ideas are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that, to your point, and this just kind of popped into my head. So, props to you. All three of these quote unquote support staff hires were made at a position where, those are probably their top two assistants on staff who if there's going to be attrition next year, it's probably going to be at those positions, because AJ Milwee is one of the top quarterback coaches in the country, bar none. Jeff Banks, obviously one of the top special teams and tight ends coaches in the country, bar none. Yeah. So you bring guys in at those spots where you're like, hey, if this guy takes, because there's been rumors about Jeff Banks being a head coach already in the last couple of years. It just didn't happen. So you bring in these guys who are, like you said, interviewing all year for the job, and great. Like, now you have an opportunity to come get this job if AJ Milwee gets hired as the offensive coordinator at, Michigan or something next year.
Yeah. And I mean, and two, it's, even if that guy's not the next quarterback's coach or the next offensive coordinator or whatever it is, he could also be somebody that when you do go get that next guy, helps you keep continuity, that he can walk in and say, well, actually what we normally do, and this is what Sark likes to do, and kind of catch him up to speed where Sark doesn't have to hold hands as much. Mm-hmm. But we've seen it. I mean, they promoted a bunch of analysts last year into coaching positions this year. So you can kind of make it, all the rules are a lot more lenient now, where it used to be you had, there was limits on everything you could have. Now that's mostly gone. So you're just bringing in, but it's nice to see them be able to use that money, where you talk about how much money Texas has. Here's another, a guy we're probably hiring under $100,000 a year. So it's, part of it. And we can keep bringing these guys in that we're not paying huge amounts of money to, but we're just going to keep kind of bringing these guys in and really see where they're at, see what their recruiting chops are mainly. If these are guys that go on the road and all these players love them, great. But then we can kind of teach them how we do it. And if they turn into a really good coach, we can use them there. But you get to see it. Some of those guys you move off of, some of those guys get other jobs out of it. But I think there's two ways to kind of do the analyst part. And Saban was big on bringing in ex-coaches, like the Charlie Strong that was working at Alabama, and guys like that you say, you guys were good coaches and you just kind of fizzled out or weren't good enough to be head coaches. So I'll bring you in, and then you'll get a coordinator position out of that or whatever else. It feels like Sark is maybe having that a little bit, because we
Sark
talk about
was one
Neil
of those
Brown.
guys.
Well, yeah, but we talk about Neil Brown. So there is a guy like that on the staff now, most likely. So you bring in him, but you're also bringing in some younger guys as well that you can build up. But you're right. Sark was that guy as well, brought in as an analyst out of Atlanta. And then was the offensive coordinator, like interim offensive coordinator, and then offensive coordinator for Alabama. You're 100% right. And so it feels like they're trying to use that knowledge of, we got to be able to build our staff back up, and we can't keep doing it every year. So we have to keep loading up the reserves and teaching them what we do. And yeah, if you see you look at AJ Milwee and go, I don't know how long he'll be here, so let's maybe bring somebody back up, and is a quarterback's coach from the NFL. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel like Sark's definitely just taking another page out of Saban's book here. Yeah, it's not a surprise. He talks about it all the time, how much he learned from Nick Saban, and now he's kind of having the same mentality, and that's why Neil Brown's in town. I know I sound like a homer, even though technically I'm not a Texas fan, but every decision that Sark has made, for the most part, since he's been here, has worked out extremely well. So if there's a reason he's bringing Kerry Joseph in, Maybe it's just because they missed the name. I don't know, but it seems like they've got a plan for him.
Do you think they're like just took the plate off of Terry Joseph's desk and crossed out the T and like made it a K?
Made like tape or a T out of masking tape.
No, it's Carey now. It's Carey. We're good. We got a K on there.
Yeah.
We're good to go. Yeah. That it feels like they did. It's like my door plaque looks so weird.
Yeah, but no, every decision Sark has made since he's been here has pretty much for the most part been the right one, outside of signing Jonte Cook. Outside of that, I'm good with everything that he's done. So I have faith that, you know, this is just going to be another good move for them, and it's going to help them develop their offense even more. And maybe it's a guy that that they're bringing in that's going to help sort of with the game planning every week. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think you're just trying to bring him in and use him wherever they're going to use him best. But the more you can bring in, the more you can help out in that room is just going to help you out as you get further in. I'm distracted now. They're showing the Anthony Davis clip show, and man, that is infuriating to watch now.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to change the channel, Patrick.
It is infuriating to watch that. I know.
I can't even look at Anthony Davis on TV anymore.
Oh, I saw the pictures. Do you see the pictures of him smoking a cigar and playing golf today?
No, but I'm sure that his team is super happy about that.
I mean, well, he's smoking cigars because that's not as bad as drinking beer. We know that you know, he cares about his health still. He's out there playing.
Also, can I say something real quick? All this stuff about Luka's conditioning that's been the whole thing about why they traded him. Last year in the playoffs, I think he played the most minutes, or at least in the top two of most minutes played in the entire playoffs, and he played the most minutes in the finals. But he's out of shape, right?
Well, I mean, he missed all those games because he's out of shape. Remember, like we're gonna get a guy in Anthony Davis who's not gonna miss any games. Yeah. So he's playing tonight, right?
Yeah, totally. The Aaron Rodgers of the NBA.
Oh man! All right, let me pull this up for you. I want to get to. We didn't get to this yesterday, but I want to ask your opinion. I know you're not an Astros guy, but I want to get your opinion on this jersey. And
I'm all about jerseys.
This is the new City Connect jersey for the Astros this season. This is the new. I don't. So the jersey itself, I kind of like. It's a throwback to when they had those stars, so I like it a little bit because it's a little bit nostalgic. It's still got the Astros on it. It says Stros instead of Astros, so I like it. The hat to me feels too corporate, and I can't place. My buddy said it was an Aldi's hat. It's too close to Aldi's, but like the A looks like it's not Astros. It looks like it's like some brand.
Huh. Okay, so here's my take. I love that they kept the orange and blue colors because I hated back in the late 90s, early 2000s when they had that other color scheme, whatever that was.
Yeah, the dark blue.
Yeah, that weird, like when they had Jeff Bagwell and all those guys.
Yeah.
I did not like that. I like their color scheme now, so I'm glad they kept that. I love the Stros with the star. I think that looks slick. But you're right. I think it's like the hat is like a concept for like a UFL team or something.
Yeah, that may be
like one of the teams from like Any Given Sunday, like the Dallas Knights or whatever that had just like the worst logo of all time.
Yeah. By the way, they make them in kid sizes, which is nice.
As you can see there.
Such a bad joke. But I'm on board with this. I'm curious. I've not seen if the Rangers have put out the Rangers one they did last year with the TX thing that looked like the Lions logo. I was never a fan of.
It was very mid, as the kids say these days.
So I wasn't there, but yeah, I'm kind of on board with these. I'm okay with these jerseys. The little sleeves, I'm curious about. I don't know about the little. They kind of look like a weird fabric. I don't know, so we'll have to see how they play them.
The sleeves are a little strange. I'll give you that. I feel like with the hat, if they can you pull it back up real quick?
Yeah.
I feel like with the hat, if they just did like an A, but like smaller, like inside the star, like it is with the S here, instead of having the A so big, it would have looked a little bit cleaner. But
I think they should just wear the Astros hat.
Yeah, I mean, that would be better too. The Astros have one of the best hats in the league.
No, but the Astros hat, the one where they do the double and the hand riding over the top of it, they should do that one. That's the hat they should be wearing.
And the Rangers should wear the Tetas hat.
Oh, they definitely should wear the Tetas hat. Yeah, that is Yeah, the Astros hat. Yeah, they should
Yeah.
definitely wear that one.
One of my buddies texted me after our show because he had watched it, and he was like, "Man, where do I find one of those Tetas hats?" I was like, I mean, I don't know, man. So I went looking and I found one on eBay, but it was for like $999.
Oh.
Like somebody had bought it, and they discontinued.
I'm telling you, whoever makes the Longhorns one of this is going to make money.
I mean, Patrick, this could be our $1 million idea.
I have already told the powers that be at Texas Sports Unfiltered they should be doing this, but
yeah,
this is what I feel. If you just make this hat in burnt orange, and I know you can't do exact burnt orange, but close enough to it, and then make it Texas with the big T in there, the black letter T,
and maybe put Sports Unfiltered right underneath, so it's not totally ripping it off.
I also told him that Tata Sports Unfiltered is our OnlyFans account, but all right, let's wrap it up. Good show today, Matt. Appreciate you as always. Thanks for everybody who joined us in the chat and on the text line as well. We'll be back tomorrow. Maybe we'll have a coach. Who knows? We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. But until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for more.